Chapter 701. I can kill you even in front of the Eternal God sect. Hearing Gong Chuha speak, the burly man touched his bald head and, somewhat displeased, stepped aside. Gong Chuha turned around, looked at Su Zimo, and said with a smile, Lin Xiu, don't misunderstand. Since you've obtained the inheritance, we naturally won't snatch it by force. We just want to take a look at what our ancestor left behind. This request should be reasonable, right? After all, it is from our ancestor. What good does looking at it do? Su Zimo asked with interest. If young Master Lin is willing to exchange, we can offer something you'll be satisfied with, Gong Chuha said. And you'll gain the friendship of our Eternal God sect. Everyone around focused their gaze on Su Zimo. Some even secretly exerted pressure, trying to intimidate him. I don't think that's necessary. At first, I didn't even want this inheritance. Unfortunately, your ancestor insisted on giving it to me. Su Zimo shook his head and said, But since it's already in my hands, there's no chance of returning it. You really won't reconsider? Gong Chuha narrowed his eyes slightly, rhythmically tapping the armrest of his seat with his right hand as he stared at Su Zimo. What, are you going to take it by force? You're welcome to try, Su Zimo replied. What's there to talk about? This kid, I can take him down easily. The burly man known as Si Xiong seemed impatient. Maybe it was Su Zimo's arrogant demeanor that annoyed him. He said coldly, Kid, if you hand it over now, we'll let it go. If not, and you dare keep our ancestors' inheritance, I'll make sure your blood spills within 5 steps. Why are you so noisy? Su Zimo turned and looked at the burly man with indifference. He activated the A-spec in the vast sea technique he had learned in the Nine Heavens Imperial sect. Endless spirit force gathered in his hand, and a small droplet of water appeared on his right index finger. With a gentle flick, the tiny droplet, carrying the weight of 5,000 kilos, shot toward the burly man. A look of surprise appeared in the man's eyes. A beastly roar suddenly came from his body. A phantom of a fierce beast appeared, howling at the sky with overwhelming might. Its true form was unclear, but the aura alone marked it as an ancient beast. Yet before the beast could show its power, the droplet pierced its forehead. The man's pupils shrank. More beastly roars followed, and 3 additional fierce beast phantoms emerged behind him. Along with the previous one, there were now 4 beast shadows. The droplet, carrying immense force and spirit force, descended like an ocean falling from the sky. The beasts had no chance to resist. It pierced through the man's back, slamming his body heavily onto the floor of the great hall. The beast phantoms shattered, their dying cries filled with terror. In the upper part of the hall, 2 Grand Empyrean-level elders showed a hint of surprise in their eyes. I was going to destroy your Eternal God sect, but since your ancestor was a chill guy, I didn't bother, Su Zimo said flatly. But that doesn't give you the right to act up in front of me. I won't tolerate any more nonsense. Otherwise, even if we're standing in your sect, in front of all your people, I'll still kill you. Hearing Su Zimo's words, the hall fell silent. Gong Chuha coughed a few times and chuckled. I think young Master Lin has misunderstood. Elder Si Xiong is just like that. We truly meant no harm. We merely wanted to ask about our ancestor. It's been tens of thousands of years since he went to the Immortal Dao Bridge. Over these years, we've tried to reach the top of the God Staircase many times but failed. Your appearance today made us a little too excited. It had better be that way. If there's nothing else, Sect Master Gong, send someone to take me back. I don't have time to waste with you, Su Zimo said coldly. Of course, Gong Chuha nodded with a smile. Just as Su Zimo was about to leave, Gong Chuha called out, Wait, young Master Lin. What is it? Su Zimo turned around and asked. Gong Chuha waved his hand and tossed a token over. I know you want to go to the God Demon battlefield. With this token, you can skip the line and go straight to the teleportation formation. Thanks, Su Zimo nodded. As he walked away, the entire hall fell into silence. After a long while, one of the Grand Empyrean elders at the top finally spoke. Sect Master, you're just letting him leave? We haven't even figured out the ancestors' inheritance. Today's events are a disgrace to our sect. In tens of thousands of years, who has ever dared act so arrogantly in front of us? Gong Chuha didn't rush to respond. Instead, he looked down and asked, Si Xiong, are you okay? The bald man struggled to stand, his eyes dazed. He muttered, terrifying. What's wrong? A nearby elder asked. I've fought Grand Empyreans before. Even Grand Empyreans I could hold off for a while. The man murmured. But just now I felt as weak as an ant crushed at will. That feeling was like... At this, his pupils shrank, and he suddenly raised his head. A god walking the earth. Hearing this, Gong Chuha narrowed his eyes and remained silent for a long time, as if deep in thought. Why did the sect master let him leave? The elder beside him still didn't understand. Are we really afraid of him? That's part of it. Gong Chuha shook his head and explained. Have you never wondered why our ancestor built the God Ascension staircase? The others frowned and remained silent. Gong Chuha continued. If it were just an ordinary inheritance, our ancestor would have left it to us. Why would he give it to an outsider so easily? There's a remnant soul of our ancestor guarding it. Do you think he doesn't know what he's doing? As they say, don't chase illusions. Some things, even if you obtain them, are useless or worse, bring disaster. Besides, that Lin Qiu was calm in front of all of us. That's not an act. It means he truly has confidence. He's not afraid of us. So the sect master gave him the token to befriend him. An elder smiled. Brilliant insight. It's not brilliant. Gong Chuha waved his hand. I just trust our ancestors' judgment. Avoid making him an enemy. Send someone to escort him out. After leaving the Eternal Hall, Su Zimo smiled slightly. The leader of the Eternal God sect was no fool. He knew how to read the situation. Outside, Jiuyu had been waiting anxiously. Seeing Su Zimo come out safely, she finally breathed a sigh of relief. Are you all right? She asked. Let's go back to Eternal City. I've got things to do. Su Zimo shook his head. Riding in the same flying palanquin as before, they returned to Eternal City. Chapter 702, The Seven Fears Cult. The flying palanquin carried Su Zimo once again back to Eternal City. Eternal City was still as bustling as before. Before leaving, Su Zimo wanted to visit the so-called Immortal Dao ruins. Maybe he could gain something unexpected. You wait for me at the inn. I have some matters to attend to, Su Zimo said to Jiuyu. You can't take me with you? Jiuyu asked. You can't go to the core of the Immortal Dao ruins. Su Zimo shook his head slightly. Jiuyu could only nod and return to the inn reluctantly. She knew that there were some things Su Zimo didn't want her involved in. After parting from Jiuyu, Su Zimo headed toward the Immortal Dao ruins alone. The Immortal Dao ruins were located in the southern district and were one of the famous landmarks of Eternal City. The battle that once took place there had been part of legend among Eternal City's residents for many years. It was said that from beyond the Immortal Dao Bridge, another world's overlord had led an invasion of the Eternal Lands. The Eternal Godly Monarch sealed that rift at the cost of his life and fought his final battle in Eternal City with the last of his forces. All the godly monarchs of the Eternal Lands had gathered, and that battle shook the heavens and earth, eclipsing sun and moon. Eventually, the overlord Qiong Qi was slain here, and most of his followers were wiped out. Later, people rebuilt Eternal City and designated the most fiercely contested battleground, the core of the war, as part of the Southern District. Because the malevolent aura left behind by Qiong Qi was too strong, it was impossible to rebuild the area. People could only hope that, with time, that malevolence would gradually fade away. Just as Su Zimo entered the Southern District, someone suddenly bumped into him. As the person approached, a murderous gleam flashed in his eyes. He drew a sharp dagger and attacked Su Zimo. Su Zimo frowned slightly and slapped the man away. The attacker slammed into a nearby wall, his body bloodied and motionless. Remnants from the past? Su Zimo frowned slightly. That was fast. I didn't even reach the Immortal Dao ruins before they were already targeting me. After killing the assassin, Su Zimo had only walked a few steps. Suddenly, with a loud bang, the heavy southern district gate behind him slowly closed. Looking ahead, the bustling main street of the southern district suddenly fell silent. Puff, puff, puff. The sound of blades piercing flesh echoed through the street. A group of people took off their outer garments, revealing red robes underneath. With a glance, there were at least several thousand of these red-robed individuals, packed tightly along the street. The unsuspecting pedestrians were stabbed through by long knives without warning, killed instantly. In a moment, the once lively street descended into chaos. The remaining civilians fled into nearby shops, trying to hide. The red-robed attackers ignored them, as their target from the beginning was Su Zimo. Once all the civilians had escaped, the street was filled only with dense ranks of red-robed cultists. A large group surrounded Su Zimo from all directions, layer upon layer. Their leader was an old man in a bright red robe with a vortex symbol on his chest. Although old, he was full of energy and ruddy-faced. He had hawk-like eyes, a hooked nose, and an oppressive gaze. A faint but powerful Empyrean aura radiated from him. "Boy, hand over the key," the old man said in a low voice. "You won't let me go even if I give it to you, so why should I?" Su Zimo replied with a smile. "If you offer the key, I'll let you join our Seven Fears cult," the old man said after some thought. "I'll give you 10 breaths to decide. If not, you die." Looks like the eternal godly monarch underestimated you all. He thought you were hiding in Eternal City, but he didn't realize you've already taken over an entire district, Su Zimo said. "Give you more time, and you might turn the whole Eternal City upside down. Kid, people from the Eternal Lands are nothing but frogs in a well. You've never seen how vast the world really is," the old man said coldly. "There are only a few godly monarchs, and few ever reach that level in a lifetime. But if you join our Seven Fears cult, once we return to our main sect, even someone like you can have a bright future. Why not join us and help plan greater things?" "No thanks. Your leader died here, and now a little Grand Empyrean like you dares call others frogs in a well." Su Zimo shook his head and sneered. The old man frowned and waved his right hand slightly. "Kill him," he said calmly. With the order, the red-robed cultists swarmed toward Su Zimo. Su Zimo looked into the distance. At the end of the street, in an open plaza, was the heart of the Immortal Dao ruins. He walked toward the end of the street, completely ignoring the thousands surrounding him. Shouts and battle cries erupted all around. As Su Zimo moved forward, a vast aura began to gather around him. With each step, his presence grew stronger, the pressure becoming increasingly intense. Winds swirled as a vortex of spirit force formed beneath his feet. The closer people got to Su Zimo, the heavier the pressure they felt. Their movements became sluggish. Su Zimo slowly raised his right hand. Dozens of people were sent flying without resistance. He continued walking, eyes calm, body unwavering. With each step, people were flung away by the dozen. Yet not a single one managed to touch even the corner of his robe. Explosions and screams rang out constantly along the street. The rare autumn sunlight shone down from the sky. Golden rays bathed the earth, illuminating the fallen corpses. By the time Su Zimo reached the end of the street and stood in the plaza, the road behind him was filled with bodies. Ruins and rubble, corpses piled like hills. Ahead of him, the only person still standing was the red-robed old man. Watching Su Zimo approach step by step, under the noon sun, sweat had unknowingly started to bead on the old man's forehead. As Su Zimo came closer, the old man seemed unable to withstand the pressure. Reddish spirit force swirled around his right hand. He clenched his fist and threw a punch at Su Zimo. The punch carried spirit force that cut through the air and tore space apart. A surge of red aura seemed to be gathering into something powerful. Su Zimo smiled slightly, reached out, and caught the old man's punch. Chapter 703, Inside the Immortal Dao Ruins. Su Zimo applied slight pressure, and a scream erupted from the red-robed elder's mouth. That right fist was crushed into dust. Su Zimo slowly reached out and placed his hand on the elder's head. "G godly monarch." The elder trembled all over and stammered. "Spare me, my lord. I'm willing to do anything." "Tell me about yourselves," Su Zimo asked. "I'm an elder of the Seven Fears cult. Our sect is based in the Great Marshlands. What else do you want to know?" The elder quickly responded. "Seven Fears cult?" Su Zimo asked. "Yes, this sect was founded by our ancestor, the Saint Sovereign Seven Fears. We're not the strongest, but we're somewhat renowned in the Great Marshlands," the elder answered without hesitation. "What is a Saint Sovereign?" Su Zimo asked. "Breaking through the 10th Meridian Gate makes one a Saint Sovereign," the elder replied. "Explain the realms beyond Grand Emperor," Su Zimo said. 10 Meridian Gates means Saint Sovereign. 11 gates and you reach the infinite Tao realm. It gets quite complex after that. I don't fully understand it myself," said the elder. "That kind of information isn't something a mere Grand Empyrean like me would have access to." "How many of your Seven Fears cult are still in the Eternal Lands?" Su Zimo asked. "None. They've all died at your hands." The elder quickly shook his head and shouted, "Let me go. I've told you everything I know, I beg you." "Unfortunately, keeping you alive is pointless," Su Zimo said with a shake of his head. With one more strike of his right hand, there was a loud boom, and the elder's corpse fell rigidly to the ground. At that moment, the sealed gates of the southern district were finally broken open. Only then did Eternal City respond and begin its counterattack. But when they arrived at the gates and saw the street piled with corpses, everyone froze. Su Zimo ignored the others and went straight to the location of the Immortal Tao ruins. Disciples of the Eternal God sect used to guard this area, but they had already been killed. The ruins were enveloped in a void formation. Su Zimo tore the formation apart with both hands and entered the ruins directly. This vast land had undergone tens of thousands of years of recovery, yet it still hadn't regenerated. The earth was dry and cracked. Not a single green plant could be seen. The ground looked like countless spider webs spreading to the horizon. One could tell how intense the battle here must have been by the scorched soil and blackened vegetation. Flocks of vultures circled in the sky, searching for fresh flesh and food. When they saw Su Zimo enter, they dove down and attacked him directly. "Coo coo!" Their sharp cries cut through the air, but within moments, all the vultures fell to the ground, lifeless. Su Zimo frowned as he observed the scene. There were no roads here, only endless white bones and jagged stones everywhere. The ground was blackened. The air was dry, making it uncomfortable to breathe. Smoke from ancient flames still drifted across the land like war banners, as though even the sky had been stained black. Su Zimo stepped forward across the land. Besides the vultures overhead, many skeletons wandered aimlessly like ghosts. They didn't attack him, merely wandered about this land without direction. The outer layer of the Immortal Tao ruins was no longer dangerous. The Eternal God sect had long since cleared it. Only the ruins remained, still showing traces of past prosperity and the devastation of war. Su Zimo kept moving forward. The so-called Heaven Unity record was likely at the core of the ruins. That area was still filled with danger. According to the Eternal Godly Monarch, he had once searched the core but found nothing. Eventually, he was forced to enter the Immortal Tao Bridge. As Su Zimo ventured deeper, the skeletons he encountered grew stronger. No longer mindless like those outside, these began to show signs of intelligence. Of course, none of them posed a real obstacle to Su Zimo. After walking for about an hour, he finally reached the core of the Immortal Tao ruins. A massive crater lay at his feet, bottomless, with no end in sight. It was hard to imagine what kind of attack could have caused such devastating destruction. Inside the massive pit were countless smaller craters. A transparent barrier blocked Su Zimo's path outside the giant pit. He reached out and touched the barrier. He could feel a force resisting his entry. He tried using the Heaven Unity key given to him by the Eternal Godly Monarch. As soon as the key touched the barrier, the illusionary face within the key began devouring the barrier's power. In just a few moments, the barrier had a gaping hole ripped in it. If Suzimo hadn't stopped it, the entire barrier might have been completely devoured. Suzimo put the key away and stepped into the core area inside the barrier. As soon as he entered, he felt an incredibly evil energy. This energy was the most malevolent he had ever encountered on the primordial heartlands, bar none. The sky within the barrier was a dark red color. This evil force had fused with the spirit force and the air itself. It constantly attempted to erode Suzimo's body. Even Grand Empyreans couldn't withstand the pressure inside this barrier. Given enough time, even a godly monarch would struggle. Those who died here were at least at the immortal path, Suzimo speculated inwardly. Within the red aura, countless skeletons glowed with black and red light and wandered around. They moved as if patrolling, and when they saw Suzimo, they swarmed toward him. Suzimo slapped them into powder. The remaining skeletons felt fear and backed away. He roughly estimated that each skeleton here had the strength of the Fusion Heaven realm. Even a Grand Empyrean would be overwhelmed if all these skeletons attacked at once. With a strange feeling, Suzimo kept walking. None of the skeletons attacked him again. Instead, they followed him from a distance as if monitoring him. Suzimo closed his eyes and spread out his soul entirely, trying to sense the source of the evil energy in this land. After a long time, Suzimo opened his eyes and looked eastward with a deep gaze. Over there, something powerful seems to be awakening. Although he didn't know exactly what was happening at the source, he had definitely sensed the presence of life within it. Chapter 704 Cheong-Chi. Suzimo's gaze was fixed on the eastern direction, and his figure quickly headed toward the source of the disturbance. He moved with great speed, and the skeletons along the way deliberately avoided him, stepping aside to let him pass. Passing several large craters, Suzimo saw some corpses inside. Each of these corpses exuded a powerful aura. Even after tens of thousands of years, their bodies had not shown any signs of decay. It was hard to imagine what kind of beings they were when alive. The weakest among them had at least reached the Grand Empyrean realm, and there were even a few godly monarchs among them. Though Suzimo had not experienced that great battle himself, he could clearly feel its brutality and intensity. He kept walking, passing hundreds of craters, until he finally stopped in front of an especially large one. The crater was shrouded in black mist, making it nearly impossible to see what lay within. Around the edge of the crater stood a dense formation of skeletons, as if guarding something of great importance inside. When Suzimo arrived, the skeletons paused for a moment, but then stepped aside without resistance. The black mist in front of him opened into the shape of a doorway, as if it had been waiting for Suzimo all along. Suzimo chuckled lightly and slowly stepped into the black mist. As soon as he entered, the scene before him changed drastically. The sky was shrouded in a thick, ominous energy, and even the ground beneath his feet had been corroded. All kinds of flowers grew here, brilliant in every color imaginable. Yet, without exception, each flower gave off an intensely evil aura. Amidst the sea of flowers was a narrow path. Following the path forward, a column of red energy soared into the sky at the end. This red energy was the source of everything. It had corrupted both the earth and the sky. Suzimo stepped onto the path, and the closer he got, the more intense the pressure and red aura became. Ahead stood a small house made of white bones. A middle-aged man sat cross-legged in front of it. When he sensed Suzimo's arrival, the middle-aged man slowly opened his eyes. He radiated a powerful evil aura. His long hair was neatly tied behind him. At first glance, his face looked refined, but upon closer inspection, every movement and feature exuded sinister energy. Dark energy radiated from the corners of his eyes. He had hawk-like eyes, a hooked nose and thin lips. He wore a long robe with wide sleeves and a tied waist, colored in white, black, and blue. On his feet were long, purple-black boots that reached up to his knees. When he saw Suzimo, the man also slowly stood up. "That old man from Eternal sent you?" the middle-aged man asked with a smile. His expression was calm, composed, He didn't seem surprised or curious about Su Zimo's arrival at all. "Who are you?" Su Zimo asked in confusion. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be any living being left in this core area. The appearance of this middle-aged man was deeply unsettling. His body was enveloped in an overwhelming evil aura, and from the bone house behind him, the red light, the source of everything, seemed to be located there. "You came all the way here and don't even know who I am?" the man said with a wicked smile. The louder he laughed, the heavier the evil aura around him became, rumbling the entire sky. "I don't know much about the past. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?" Su Zimo said calmly. "Looks like that old man from Eternal didn't tell you much," the man said with a chuckle as he sat back down. In front of him was a bone table with a pot of freshly brewed hot tea. The tea was blood red, its ingredients unknown. "My name is Ancient, but I believe everyone in Eternal City will remember the name Qiong-Chi for the rest of their lives." "Oh, the culprit behind that great war back then," Su Zimo nodded as he walked forward. The man was a bit surprised by Su Zimo's calm demeanor. "You're not afraid?" he asked. "Why would I be? We haven't fought yet. Maybe the one who should be afraid is you," Su Zimo replied with a smile. Hearing this, the man burst into laughter and poured a cup of blood-red tea. Interesting. I've met many people on the Eternal Lands, but you're one of the few I actually like." Su Zimo walked to the table and sat across from him. He picked up the cup of tea and asked casually, "Weren't you supposed to be dead? You look pretty lively to me." After taking a sip, a surge of rich spiritual energy exploded within him like a tidal wave. "Good tea," Su Zimo said with admiration. He immediately felt refreshed, as if all the pores on his body had opened up. This tea could probably push a fusion heaven cultivator directly into the Grand Empyrean realm. "Dead? Killed by those ants?" The man laughed and shook his head. "The difference between me and them is one of quality, not quantity. They weren't worthy." "Then how did you end up like this?" Su Zimo asked curiously. According to the eternal godly monarch, this leader should have reached the immortal path. Logically, no number of godly monarchs on the Eternal Lands should have been able to stop him. Upon hearing Su Zimo's question, the man fell silent for a moment. His brow furrowed slightly, and he said with a cold snort, "I underestimated everything. In the end, I became someone else's pawn." "You're from the Seven Fears cult?" Su Zimo asked. "Seems like you know a bit," the man chuckled. "No harm in telling you. Back then, when I discovered that rift, I planned to conquer the Eternal Lands and turn it into a backyard for our Seven Fears cult, providing us with fresh blood. But I was too naive. The Eternal Lands has existed for countless years, and countless powerful beings have come from it. There were even some at the Infinite Tao realm. How could they sit back while I invaded their homeland?" "Looks like you were set up," Su Zimo laughed. "They wanted me to lead the charge to test everyone's reaction. But our Seven Fears cult doesn't do cannon fodder. So I faked my death and possessed a corpse to hide in these ruins. How ridiculous that those ants thought they had killed me," the man sneered. "But deceiving their eyes and ears came at a great price. Once I cultivate here for another few thousand years, I'll enter the immortal Tao bridge and leave this world. Yeah, whatever, I don't care about any of that. Anyway, since you're their leader, Qiong-Chi, you must know about the Heaven Unity record," Su Zimo asked. "Kid, greed makes people lose their way. Looks like you've also fallen into Old Eternal's trap," Qiong-Chi said as he glanced at Su Zimo. "Who cares whose trap it is? How about we make a deal? You give me the Heaven Unity record, and I promise not to beat you to death," Su Zimo said. Chapter 705, Great Battle with Qiong-Chi. Upon hearing Su Zimo's words, Qiong-Chi stood up and grinned wickedly. His laughter was loud, shaking the surrounding space with visible ripples. "If you can defeat me, the Heaven Unity record is naturally yours." "I wouldn't have a choice anyway," Qiong-Chi said. "Though I'm not at my peak, I remain unmatched in the Eternal Lands." "Is that so?" Su Zimo replied with a faint smile and stood up as well. Behind Qiong-Chi, Waves of blood-red spirit force surged into the sky, reflecting off the earth and heavens. The red aura churned violently, as if something was struggling to break free from within it. "Come then, let me see what you're made of." Qiongqi extended his hand and said calmly, "If you disappoint me, you probably won't leave here alive." Su Zimo smiled and shook his head. He could sense that Qiongqi's strength hadn't returned to the immortal path. He was likely at the level of a godly monarch. Still, in terms of spirit force density, other than the Sky Shroud war god of the true martial sacred ground, this man was the strongest he had seen. Su Zimo slowly drew the long blade from his back, and his aura steadily intensified. The so-called 7 fears. First is Ravage. Qiongqi stretched out his right hand, and the phantom of a fearsome beast burst forth from the red energy behind him. It stepped into the air and stood behind him. This beast, Ravage Bull, looked like a bull with 4 horns, and its fur was long and draped over its body like a rain cloak. Qiongqi swung his arm, and the beast's phantom attached itself to his left arm, exuding a terrifying aura as he charged at Su Zimo. "Since you know about the 7 fears cult, you should understand what the 7 fears are," Qiongqi said coldly. With a single strike, space collapsed and the power increased hundreds of times. Su Zimo barely blocked it, but was forced several steps back. "To take that hit, you're not bad among godly monarchs," Qiongqi said indifferently. "Keep going," Su Zimo smiled. "The 7 fears were gathered by our ancestor based on the 7 great fear beasts. Watch carefully," Qiongqi said. "Second is Dread Wolf. This beast has 5 tails and 1 horn. Its roar like thunder splitting stone, and it feeds on other fierce beasts." As he spoke, another beast phantom appeared and attached itself to Qiongqi's right arm. He charged forward and engaged Su Zimo in close combat. His fists, infused with the power of 2 beasts, were wide, forceful, and ferocious. Su Zimo handled the fight with ease. Qiongqi seemed to suffer from some hidden illness and was unwilling to use certain moves. Third is Venom Hawk, fourth is Power Hound. 2 more soft roars rang out, and 2 more phantoms attached themselves to Qiongqi's legs. This time, not only did his strength increase greatly, but his speed also doubled. Qiongqi moved through the void with every step, appearing and disappearing without a trace. Even the afterimages he left behind were hard to follow. "Interesting," Su Zimo chuckled. The long blade in his hand burst with immense blade intent as he unleashed the 9th form of Dao Seeking. Deep Blue World. The surroundings became enveloped in a layer of deep blue spirit force. Within this small world, only dozens of meters in size, Su Zimo could sense every movement. Dao Seeking 12th form, Heaven Blood. He slashed again. Blood began seeping from the blade itself. With one swing, the weapon, unlike his usual bang blade, started to show cracks under the immense force. Qiongqi was forced several steps back, appearing slightly short of breath. "You seem to be at your limit, still putting on a show," Su Zimo said with a light laugh. In truth, Qiongqi had never recovered. His body was still weak. Ever since Su Zimo entered the core area, Qiongqi had manipulated the skeletons to test him. Upon realizing he wasn't a match, Qiongqi immediately gave up the attack and waited calmly for Su Zimo to arrive. Everything he said was merely to confuse Su Zimo. He was in no condition for battle. "Aya, you figured it out. What a pity," Qiongqi said with a sinister grin, still unfazed. Looking at Su Zimo, he said, "How about a deal? What right do you have to negotiate with me?" Su Zimo asked as he approached step by step. "You want the Heaven Unity record. Do you even know what it is?" Qiongqi asked. "Give it to me and I'll find out," Su Zimo replied. "If you kill me, you won't get the Heaven Unity record either. Let's call it even." "I'll tell you the secret," Qiongqi said. "No need. I'm guessing it's in that bone house behind you." Su Zimo smiled and pointed. Qiongqi's expression tightened. He squinted, staring at Su Zimo. As Su Zimo walked toward the bone house, an energy wave suddenly surged at him from behind. Turning around, Su Zimo saw Qiongqi's body glowing faintly blue. He seemed to have entered a special state. The dark affliction within him was rapidly healing, and energy surged through him in waves. His power grew stronger and stronger, as if reaching the absolute limit of what his body could handle. His entire form felt hollow and strange. You wanted to know what the Heaven Unity record is? I'll tell you now, Qiongqi said calmly. One of the 10 primordial God scriptures, Heaven Unity 3 Gates God Scripture. Su Zimo could clearly sense that Qiongqi's aura had suddenly risen back to the immortal path. And it was still climbing, with even more room to grow. The surrounding blood-red spirit force went berserk. He rose into the air, and with a wave of his hands, the sea of blood gathered above, coiling and roaring. Chaos, go play with him, Su Zimo said as he waved his right hand, releasing chaos from the god world. A vast beastly aura spread across the land. When Qiongqi saw chaos appear, his expression changed. He immediately asked, "Who are you really? You can't be from this world." "If you survive, I'll tell you," Su Zimo said with a smile. With that, he strode directly into the bone house. Chaos unfolded its enormous wings that blotted out the sky and charged at Qiongqi. Inside the bone house, the space was not large. At its center stood a high platform. The pillar of red light originated from this platform. Floating above the platform was a book. A book with a blue cover, clear and radiant, slowly rotating. The Heaven Unity 3 Gates God Scripture, one of the 10 divine scriptures, Su Zimo muttered to himself. He hadn't even reached the outer heavens yet, and already he was encountering more and more artifacts from that higher world. When he reached out for the Heaven Unity 3 Gates God Scripture with both hands, a powerful backlash erupted from the book, forcing Su Zimo's right hand away. Chapter 706, Heading to God Demon Battlefield. Seeing the situation, Su Zimo smiled. The power of creation surged in both his hands, and with one punch, he shattered the red light barrier and took the Heaven Unity 3 Gates God Scripture in hand. The moment he held the Heaven Unity 3 Gates God Scripture, it felt both icy cold and scorching hot. The cover of the book was extremely hard, engraved with countless dense patterns. An invisible aura flowed through these patterns like water. At the center of the cover, only the 2 characters Heaven Unity glowed faintly, drawing the eye. Su Zimo slowly opened the cover, and at that moment, a soft blue light shone out from within, enveloping his entire figure. Immediately afterward, his vision shifted, and he found himself in a completely different space. This was a quiet, light blue realm, with transparent spirit force gently drifting through the air. Sparkling like stars scattered across the sky, countless galactic rivers hung upside down, falling vertically like waterfalls. Su Zimo reached out, and the blue starlit air drifted past his hand. Before he could examine the place further, a loud bang sounded. In the surrounding space, 3 doors suddenly opened without warning. From within each door, blue spirit force floated outward. The light blocked everything inside, shrouding it in mystery and wonder. The 3 doors floated around the space, sometimes to the sides, sometimes above and below. Curious, Su Zimo slowly stepped into the first door, and the scene before him expanded instantly. The Heaven Unity 3 Gates God Scripture, also known as the Heaven Unity Record. What are the 3 gates? The gate of death, the gate of life, and the gate of eternity. Anyone who cultivates the Heaven Unity 3 Gates God Scripture can use the gate of death to resurrect the dead. Though the resurrection has a time limit, the ability to ignore the rules of life and death is already an extraordinary feat. The gate of life allows the user's strength to increase dramatically, reaching the limits their body can withstand. The gate of eternity, when opened, renders the user undying and indestructible for a period of time, virtually invincible. These 3 gates are unbeatable whether for combat or survival. Su Zimo felt himself immersed in a quiet starry sky as countless profound and obscure techniques flooded into his mind. Once the 3 gates are opened, one's strength undergoes a qualitative leap. Su Zimo didn't know how much time passed before he finally awoke from the stillness of the starry sky. The 3 lives gate required cultivation. The gates of life and death were manageable, But the gate of eternity was the hardest. When he opened his eyes, his mind now held a memory, the secrets of cultivating the Heaven Unity Three Gates God Scripture, and his consciousness returned to the bone house. He kept his eyes closed and said nothing, only after a long while exhaling deeply. Su Zimo put away the Heaven Unity Three Gates God Scripture and slowly stepped outside. At this time, Qiongqi was still fighting with chaos. It looked like his 7 fears had reached the 4th level. The gates of life and death were fully opened, though he likely hadn't learned the gate of eternity yet. Even though chaos had the innate advantage of a beast body, he was still being suppressed by Qiongqi. Seeing this, Su Zimo chuckled and waved his hand, signaling chaos to stop. As the two parted, Qiongqi looked at Su Zimo with rage and said, "Since you've already learned the Heaven Unity Three Gates God Scripture, you should return it to me." "Sorry, I'm a greedy person. I want it all," Su Zimo said with a smile, shaking his head. "You're looking for death," Qiongqi growled, glaring at Su Zimo. "You understand the Heaven Unity Three Gates God Scripture, right? In your current state, it won't last long. Do you think you can kill my Meridian Beast before the gate's effect wears off?" Su Zimo asked, smiling. Hearing this, the fierce look in Qiongqi's eyes gradually calmed. He said, "Do you know what the 10 primordial God Scriptures mean? You'll go to our world eventually, and waiting for you will be endless pursuit. Then I'll wait. I hope your 7 fears cult doesn't disappoint me." Su Zimo smiled. "I'll remember you." Qiongqi looked at Su Zimo once more before his figure gradually vanished into the void. He didn't dare drag things out any further. Once the effect of the 3 lives gate disappeared, he'd be like meat on a chopping block with no chance to resist. "Master." The enormous figure of chaos turned towards Su Zimo. "What is it?" Su Zimo asked. "When are you going to start the grand cultivation era?" Chaos scratched his head and asked with a silly grin. "Why? What's your plan now?" Su Zimo asked. "I'd like to teach the beast race some cultivation methods before it begins," Chaos said. "There's no rush. I'll notify you when I return to the primordial heartlands and prepare to begin," Su Zimo said. "But one thing I must remind you, in the early stages, the beast race can receive some special treatment, but once the world fully develops, no one is allowed to interfere." "I understand," Chaos nodded quickly. Su Zimo waved his hand and sent Chaos back into the God world. Long ago, when Chaos first followed him, he had promised to restore the glory of the beast race. That promise still stood. Chaos had followed him for a long time. The grand cultivation era would definitely begin. Once the God world stabilized and all creatures could survive, Su Zimo would guide them into cultivation. After all, if he didn't, humanity might move toward a technological age instead. But there was still one problem ahead. The grand cultivation era needed an endless supply of spirit force. Without that, there was no way to support an entire world of cultivators, so Su Zimo had been preparing for this all along. Now, the core of the Immortal Dao ruins had completely fallen. Only once Qiongqi returned to his own world would the evil aura in this land finally dissipate. But that had little to do with Su Zimo. He was preparing to head to the God-Demon battlefield. Once that matter was settled, he would return to the primordial heartlands and prepare for heaven's will. After exiting the Immortal Dao ruins, Zhou Yu was already waiting outside. Seeing that Su Zimo was safe, she finally breathed a sigh of relief. The northern district was now under control of the Eternal God sect, and everyone had been captured. This time, the remaining traitors would likely face a major purge. "To the God-Demon battlefield," Su Zimo said to Juyo with a smile. The two of them arrived at the teleportation array in the southern district. Su Zimo took out the token given to him by Gong Chuha, skipped the line, and stepped directly into the formation. From Eternal City to the God-Demon battlefield was a journey between 2 regions. It would take quite a bit of time. Chapter 707 God-Demon City. After spending roughly half a month in the void of teleportation, Su Zimo and Zhou Yu finally felt the spatial fluctuations around them begin to slow down. Their figures were forcefully pulled out from the outer realm. Blinding sunlight poured down from above as Su Zimo squinted and looked around. They were in another city, bustling and lively, with many others emerging from the teleportation formation just like them. God Demon City, Joyu said coldly as she looked around. Seems like you're pretty familiar with this place, Su Zimo said with a smile. I came from the God Demon battlefield. What do you think? Joyu replied. Then I guess that'll save us a lot of trouble, Su Zimo smiled. Aren't you curious about my identity? Joyu asked, unable to hold it in any longer. I won't ask. If you want to work with me, you'll need something from me, so you'll tell me eventually, Su Zimo said with a smile, shaking his head. Let's find an inn first. I'll tell you everything and we can plan, Joyu said, looking at Su Zimo. Fine by me, Su Zimo nodded. God Demon City was far bigger than Su Zimo had imagined. In terms of sheer scale, it was even more expansive and prosperous than Eternal City. What stood out was that there were almost no ordinary people or weak cultivators. Nearly everyone here was at the Celestial Image Realm or above. Besides the scattered independent cultivators, disciples of many major sects were everywhere, easily recognizable by the distinct styles of their robes. Su Zimo and Joyu also found a nearby inn and checked in. This was an incomparably dark underground palace. Sunlight never reached this place. All light was banished. Only darkness remained eternal. Surrounding the palace was a black river, slowly flowing and hovering in midair. The river was pitch black, hiding untold sins and darkness within. It flowed like a living creature, and anything that approached the palace was instantly devoured. Anything that entered the river would never see daylight again. Inside the palace, in a grand main hall, a few ghostly flames burned around the chamber, and an invisible pressure filled the air. A group of figures in black robes and hats stood on either side of the hall. At the head of the hall sat another black-robed figure, suspended in midair, with his face hidden from view. The black-robed figures on either side all had their heads bowed. No one dared to look up. After a long silence, a black-robed figure slowly walked into the hall. A low voice broke the suffocating stillness. A message from the Tsang clan. Granny Ming is dead. The killer is very powerful. Trash. Has the Tsang clan been in hiding too long? Something happens at their own outpost and that's all they report? A voice echoed throughout the hall. It was unclear who had spoken. The voice seemed to come from all directions. The mortal branch of the Tsang clan also appears to have been wiped out. They're planning to summon the Azure God, the black-robed figure below replied. At that, the hall fell silent for a long time. Eventually, the voice spoke again. Summon the Azure God? So the background is serious. Which sect is he from? According to investigations, it seems to be the Nine Heavens Imperial Sect. A mere Imperial Sect dares to provoke us? After that voice faded, another voice quickly followed in the hall. The strongest in an Imperial Sect is only at the Fusion Heaven realm. How could someone like that kill Granny Ming? Think it through. This seems to have little to do with the sect. The disciple is strange. We can't find much information about him. The Tsang clan suggests that unless we summon the underworld godly monarch, we shouldn't go there just to die. Summon the ancestor? They must be terrified. Granny Ming was a direct bloodline after all. I will report this to the ancestor. Let him decide. That last voice was quiet, but the hall instantly fell into complete silence. No one dared to object. Back in God Demon City, Su Zimo and Joyu returned to the inn. Su Zimo smiled and said, Now you can tell me. I'm a hunter of the remnants of the god race, Joyu said with a bitter smile. About 100 years ago, I accidentally entered a forbidden zone and discovered their secret, so they began hunting me. My family and friends were all executed. I returned to the God Demon battlefield for revenge. They? Who are they? Su Zimo asked. The upper ranks of our remnants, Joyu said sarcastically. They used our hope of reviving the god race as a cover to satisfy their own hidden agendas. What do you mean? Su Zimo asked. You know this, no matter what we do, remnants like us will never be true god race. We only carry a faint trace of their bloodline, Zhou explained. And those higher-ups use us for endless experiments, trying to one day completely transform into real divine beings. When I accidentally uncovered the truth, they wanted to silence me. A bunch of people who no longer belong in this era, still dreaming of restoring past glory, Su Zimo said with a smile. That's also why you're working with me. To unlock the demon summoning bell in your hand, you'll need their power, Zhou said. You're destined to be their enemy. So the enemy of your enemy is a friend. I don't really care. Anyone who blocks my path dies, Su Zimo replied. Since you came from the ruins, you should know where their base is. We don't have a fixed base. We drift around the battlefield, Zhou said, shaking her head. It's been so long. I'm not confident, but there are a few known gathering spots. I can take you. Then let's go. I've been meaning to see the so-called God Demon battlefield myself, Su Zimo said with a smile. God Demon City was built in connection with the God Demon battlefield, meant to serve as a resting place for those heading into the battlefield. Broadly speaking, there was no city lord or ruler here. It was more of a place built collectively by all. Though there were no rules, anyone who could open a shop here was a powerful figure with great influence. So no one dared to cause real trouble or fight in the city. Su Zimo and Zhou left the inn and walked straight toward the city gates. God Demon City was vast, divided into northern and southern regions. To the north stood a statue of a divine being. To the south, a statue of a demon. Su Zimo and Zhou left through the southern gate. He looked up and saw that the demon statue was incredibly lifelike, its eyes locked directly with his own. Chapter 708, The God Temple. Su Zimo's gaze met the statue's, as if the two had journeyed through tens of thousands of years to meet again. The statue was of a young man, dressed in a black waist-tied robe. A faint demonic aura swirled around him. His long hair naturally draped over his back. His eyes were pitch black, exuding overwhelming demonic intent, and in his slender hands he held a lotus flower. The lotus had 5 petals, each one lifelike as if it were blooming in reality. On the black robe tied around the young man's waist, there were distorted words written. But due to the passage of time, the characters had long been worn away and were no longer legible. Who is this? Su Zimo asked Zhou. I don't know either. Probably some great figure of the demon race, Zhou replied. You don't know? Someone must know who built this statue, Su Zimo asked. No one knows. When God Demon City was first built, both the demon statue here and the god statue in the north already existed on this land, Zhou replied. The history of the God Demon battlefield is too ancient. There's a lot we don't know. Su Zimo nodded, gave the statue one last deep glance, then turned and left. After leaving God Demon City, the two headed east. The God Demon battlefield was located north of the city, within an independent space. Rather than calling it an independent space, it was more accurate to say it was a small world. This small world was vast, once the most supreme place on the Eternal Lands. But with the disappearance of the god and demon races, it too gradually declined. After walking for about an hour, Su Zimo and Zhou finally arrived at the entrance to the small world. There were 2 spatial gates into the world. The northern gate led to what used to be the territory of the god race. The southern gate led to the demon race's domain. Since they were here to pursue the god race, they naturally entered through the northern gate. Those are people from Misty Illusion Pavilion. The others are disciples of Nine Dragon Villa. The god demon battlefield is really getting crowded, Zhou said, pointing at the disciples passing by and smiling. They had now reached the northern gate. The massive spatial gate stood hundreds of feet tall, rotating counterclockwise in a continuous swirl. There was no single authority managing the gate. It was jointly controlled by various factions. As such, people came and went freely, and no one paid much attention. Su Zimo looked around. Some were independent cultivators, while others were elite disciples from sects here to train. Are these factions well known? Su Zimo asked. In truth, Su Zimo only knew the southern region of the Eternal Lands well. He hadn't been to the other regions and didn't care much. Misty Illusion Pavilion is an Empyrean-level force, very famous in the western region. As for Nine Dragon Villa, though they've never produced a godly monarch, their ancestor, the Nine Dragon True Lord, was said to be powerful enough to battle a godly monarch. Definitely not to be underestimated, Zhou said. You do know a lot, Su Zimo remarked. Of course. I've been hunted for 100 years and traveled through all the regions, Zhou said with a laugh. There are some basic things I've picked up along the way. Su Zimo nodded slightly. As they talked, the two of them stepped into the spatial gate together. After the shift in vision settled, things gradually became clear. The sky was a deep blue. There was no sun, but the scenery was breathtaking. The surroundings were brightly lit, with a pleasant breeze and beautiful weather. Before them stretched a vast and lovely grassland. At the edge of their sight, endless mountain ranges faded into the horizon. This doesn't look like a battlefield at all, Su Zimo said with a smile. To the north lies the god race's territory. The god and demon races mainly fought in the center. We're just at the outer edge, Zhou explained. So where are the god race's strongholds? Su Zimo asked. There are 3, the God Valley, the God Tower, and the God Temple, Zhou replied. As you know, all the races now deeply resent the god and demon races. They won't allow the former rulers to rise again. We remnants have to hide. Though we don't have a fixed base, there are some known contact points. But after all this time, I don't know if they still exist. Where should we go first? Su Zimo asked. The God Temple. It's the closest to our current location, Zhou said. Su Zimo nodded. With Zhou leading the way, he could take it easy. The god-demon battlefield was very different from what he had imagined. With such pleasant weather, there wasn't even a trace of war. After walking for half a day, a sound of fighting ahead caught their attention. In the distance, several corpses lay on the ground, and 2 men were in combat. The clash of swords rang out, sparks flying, accompanied by loud shouts. In this battlefield, there are no rules. Murder and robbery happen all the time, Zhou said casually, clearly used to it. She added with a smile, disciples from sects usually travel in groups. Only independent cultivators move alone. Noticing someone approaching, the 2 fighting men immediately stopped, eyeing Su Zimo and Zhou warily. It's fine, keep fighting. I won't interfere, Su Zimo said with a smile and waved his hand. Brother, he's got god pearls on him. Let's join forces and kill him. I won't compete for them, I just want to avenge my friend, said the sword-wielding man after a moment of thought. Looking at Su Zimo. You're insane. If someone else joins in, neither of us will get anything. The other man cried out in shock, quickly retreating. What's a god pearl? Su Zimo asked Zhou curiously. After a god's body dies, over a long time, the energy inside it is corroded by heaven and earth, eventually condensing into a pearl, Zhou explained. These pearls contain residual god power and are highly sought after. Su Zimo thought for a moment, then raised his right hand. With a loud boom, both men were dead before they could react, crushed under his palm. Su Zimo retrieved several transparent pearls from one of their pouches. These are it? He asked. The pearls were completely transparent, with shimmering specks inside. They felt heavy in the hand. Do demons have similar things, demon pearls? He asked. Of course. But the demons are to the south, and we won't be going there, Zhou replied. As they walked, she familiarized herself with the terrain. It had been a long time since she'd returned, and finally, after wandering for most of the day, they arrived at what was called the God Temple at dusk. It was a stone stele, weathered and ancient, standing for who knows how many years. Chapter 709, Wind Thunder Tower. The setting sun was beautiful, but dusk was approaching. A few solitary birds flew across the sky as golden light poured down from above. Arriving in front of the stone stele, Zhou bit his finger and let a drop of blood fall onto it. With a loud rumble, explosions echoed from all directions. The ground beneath their feet began to crack, with fissures spreading outward, followed by a temple slowly rising from beneath the earth. What's this? Su Zimo asked. The God Temple can only be opened with our divine blood. Normally this is one of our contact points. No one else can detect it, Jiuyu replied. The temple wasn't very large. Its exterior was a pale white, built from a special crystalline material. The top of the temple was brown. A large door was tightly shut. There were no windows on either side, and 2 silver-colored copper rings were attached to the door. Jiuyu stepped forward, grasped the copper rings, and pushed hard. With a creaking sound, the long sealed doors were opened. As if untouched by fresh air for many years, a cloud of dust burst out. The air inside was thick with particles. The two entered the temple, which was simply furnished. On either side hung pale yellow curtains, and 3 meditation cushions were placed below. At the head of the hall stood a statue. The statue was entirely blue, with deep blue eyes and an extremely handsome appearance. It had 8 wings, 4 on each side, and sat solemnly in the lead position, gazing forward. Within its azure eyes, it seemed as if thousands of divine realms were evolving. Clearly, no one had visited this temple in a long time. Aside from the statue, the altar table before it was covered in dust. Jiuyu walked behind the statue and pressed gently on its back. Turned out to be hollow inside. Inside was a box. Jiuyu opened it to find it completely empty. "Looks like no one's been here in ages," Jiuyu said. "We should head to the God Valley next. The chances are better there." "Who's being worshipped here?" Su Zimo asked. "The sovereign god," Jiuyu replied. "Said to be the former ruler of our god race, someone powerful enough to rival the demon race. But those times were long ago. Even we descendants know little about it." "Let's go," Su Zimo said, glancing at the statue a few more times before leaving the temple. Once the two exited, the temple sank back underground, and the cracks in the earth sealed as if nothing had happened. As the two headed toward the God Valley, Su Zimo asked, "Can you tell me about the god and demon races?" "What do you want to know?" Jiuyu asked. "No rush. Just tell me everything you know," Su Zimo said. "I don't know that much either. Both my parents were descendants of the god race. I've lived here since birth. Although our bloodline is weak, it can still be awakened. This battlefield isn't just home to divine descendants. There are also demon descendants. Both groups uphold the traditions of their ancestors. There are frequent secret skirmishes between us," Jiuyu explained. "Millions of years ago, during the god-demon era, there was said to be a great war here. No one saw the battle directly, but the sound of it shook all 4 domains, and the tremors were felt across the entire eternal lands. After that battle, both the god and demon races disappeared. Some say they all died. Others say they were sealed away. There are many theories." Su Zimo pondered for a moment and retrieved the demon locking bell from his storage ring. The somewhat damaged bell spun in his palm, exuding an ancient, boundless aura, as if awaiting some mysterious call. "You think this demon locking bell was used to imprison members of the demon race?" Su Zimo asked. "That's just a guess. We're not even sure if it's really the demon locking bell," Jiuyu replied. "I saw records in some of our race's books. They said that if we couldn't kill powerful demons quickly, we'd trap them inside the bell and seal them. It was considered one of our clan's greatest treasures." "How far are we from the God Valley?" Su Zimo asked. He noticed that the further they walked, the darker the ground beneath their feet became. From a higher perspective, one would see a blue sky overhead. But as they neared the horizon, the sky grew darker, more blood-red. In this space, Su Zimo vaguely sensed the long-lost aura of demonic energy. "Still some distance to go," Jiuyu shook his head. By now, night was falling. The setting sun had disappeared, and an autumn wind howled through the land. So far, Su Zimo hadn't encountered much danger. But neither had he come across any treasures. He looked up at the gloomy sky. A full moon hung high overhead. It was a strange moon, half was a blood moon, the other half a blue moon. The two halves seemed to repel each other. The entire moon radiated a mysterious aura. "Let's rest for the night and continue tomorrow," Jiuyu suggested. "I haven't been here in a long time. I don't want to go the wrong way." Su Zimo nodded, not in a rush. The two found a large tree to rest under. The trees in this battlefield had a divine nature and grew to towering heights. Jiuyu lit a fire and sat against the tree. She hugged her knees, staring blankly at the moon overhead. "What's wrong?" Su Zimo asked with a smile. "I miss my parents," Jiuyu said with a soft laugh. "I can't forget the scene under the blood moon that night. My family lying in pools of blood." "You're almost ready for revenge," Su Zimo said with a slight smile, leaning his head against the tree. Just then, the sound of footsteps approached from the side. "Who's there?" Jiuyu quickly turned, alert. 3 people emerged from the distance, 2 men and 1 woman, all wearing matching purple robes. "Don't be alarmed. We just saw your firelight and wanted to rest here too," said the young man in the lead, smiling. "Wind Thunder Tower?" Jiuyu asked cautiously, recognizing their robes. "Yes, yes." The 3 quickly nodded. As they approached, the firelight revealed their worn and disheveled faces, with hair in disarray and dried blood covering their clothes. "What happened to you?" Jiuyu asked. "Don't mention it. A demon stronghold up ahead was opened. We got ambushed and barely escaped with our lives." The man shook his head. Then he looked at Jiuyu and smiled. "I'm Feng Changyin. This is my junior brother Feng Changyin and junior sister Feng Yuer. You two are Rouge cultivators, right?" Chapter 710 God Demon Apocalypse. "Considered rogue cultivators, I suppose. I'm Jiuyu, he's Lin Xiu." Jiuyu nodded and gave a brief introduction. "Thanks, Miss Jiuyu, Brother Lin." Feng Changyin plopped down in front of the campfire, gasping for breath. "This god-demon battlefield is incredibly dangerous at night. We don't dare wander around. It's a stroke of luck to run into you two." Jiuyu nodded, feeding the fire, but didn't say much. "You mentioned a demon ruin earlier?" Su Zimo asked curiously. "Technically, it's the tomb of a powerful demon," Feng Changyin replied. "This must be your first time here in the god-demon battlefield." "It's my first time," Su Zimo responded. "After centuries of exploration, most obvious treasures in the god-demon battlefield have already been plundered. These days, those who come here are mainly looking for ruins," Feng Changyin explained. "When powerful individuals of the god or demon races died, their people would bury them with funerary items. Treasure hunters target those tombs for the burial goods." "I see," Su Zimo nodded. "You two don't seem like you're here for tombs. That means you're hunting down descendants, right?" Feng Changyin grinned. "You know quite a lot," Su Zimo said. "Of course, our Wind Thunder Tower is closest to the god-demon battlefield, so we come often," Feng Changyin said. "People who come here are either tomb seekers, hunters of god or demon descendants, or younger cultivators looking to train. Who says we're not here for the tombs? Let's go take a look tomorrow," Su Zimo said. "I'd advise against it. The tomb is already surrounded by people from Nine Dragon Villa. Unless you're very strong, you won't even qualify to go in," Feng Changyin chimed in. "If you're going, we'll come too. Safety in numbers." Feng Changyin looked at Su Zimo and said, "I can't let go of this. I feel like that tomb isn't ordinary. Isn't this god territory? Why would there be a demon's tomb here?" Jiuyu asked suspiciously. Judging by territorial divisions, the demon race wouldn't bury their own here to avoid the god race from desecrating the tombs, something that had happened in the past. "Who knows? That stuff's ancient history. We can't make sense of it." Feng Changyin shrugged indifferently. "Why don't we consider teaming up? Strength in numbers." "You lead the way," Su Zimo nodded. The sky grew darker, and the moon in the sky became increasingly strange. The 5 of them stoked the campfire even higher, resting under the large tree or meditating while leaning against its branches. Wind Thunder Tower wasn't a particularly powerful sect. Its strongest cultivator was only at the Fusion Heaven realm. Feng Changyin and his companions were considered prodigies in their sect. Having recently reached the World Paragon realm, they came to the god-demon battlefield hoping for some adventure or perhaps a lucky encounter. As the group rested, war drums suddenly echoed across the heavens. The booming of drums was like thunder, exploding in their ears. Reflected by the moon above were two beams of light, one a blood-red and black hue, the other a clear blue. The two beams faced each other across the land. And then, shadows suddenly appeared across the earth. On the left stood countless god warriors, handsome figures with 1, 2, or even 3 pairs of wings behind them. Vast god power surged from their bodies. There were hundreds of them, holding various weapons and wearing matching golden robes. On the right, another horde of shadows emerged, surrounded by overwhelming demonic energy. They came in all shapes, some had horns and human bodies, others had pitch-black skin like skeletons. Some were entirely made of white bones, with eyes burning with demonic fire. The oppressive demon aura from them covered half the sky. The war drums roared. The two factions stood thousands of meters apart. Each side, like humanoid beasts, charged toward the other. Su Zimo and his group were caught directly in the center of the battlefield. Seeing this, Feng Changyan turned pale with fear, trembling all over. "We're surrounded by obsessions," he shouted, snapping everyone out of their daze. "Run! If we don't, none of us will make it out alive." Feng Changyin and Feng Yue didn't hesitate and dashed left, hoping to escape the battlefield before the fighting fully erupted. "Run, Miss Jiuyu," Feng Changyin called out, seeing Jiuyu standing still. Jiuyu didn't respond. Instead, she turned to Su Zimo. "You go first." "I'll be fine," Su Zimo said, waving his hand.
"No."
"If you're not going, I won't go either." Jiuyu shook her head. "If you die, we die together. Don't you want revenge anymore?" Su Zimo asked. "If you die, I don't have the power to avenge anything," Jiuyu replied. The drumbeats were deafening, as if echoing through tens of millions of years, descending upon this vast land from ancient times. What they saw now was a reenactment of the great war between gods and demons. These beings had long since died. What remained were their obsessions. Through the endless passage of time, even after their bodies had turned to dust, their bones to ash, these obsessions continued to drive them, fighting again and again through the ages. Drumbeats and thunder mingled as nearly 1,000 figures clashed across the vast plains. Feng Changyan and the others barely escaped at the last moment. Panting heavily, he looked back with fear. They didn't make it out? Sigh, what a shame. Su Zimo stood calmly, his back to the demon forces, eyes fixed on the charging god warriors. His gaze was steady and deep. The strands of hair on his forehead fluttered slightly. His black robe moved with no wind. Jiuyu looked nervous, watching the approaching demons. Some of them raised long blades. Others were wrapped in chains. Their eyes burned with demonic fire, exuding soul-crushing pressure as they charged at her. Jiuyu quickly dodged, weaving between the demon warriors. Their true enemy was the god race. They didn't pay much attention to her. But even without deliberately attacking her, there were simply too many of them. One hit her directly, sending her body flying backward. The obsessions of the demon warriors trampled over her fallen form and continued charging toward the god army without pause. Because Su Zimo was so close to the action, the battle was now about to sweep him in. "Watch out! Get out of the way!" Jiuyu shouted anxiously. Chapter 711 All will be demon soil. The figures of the demon horde had already charged forward. The deafening drumbeats echoed in Su Zimo's ears. In that instant, Su Zimo activated his hell-suppressing demon physique. Endless demonic energy surged skyward from around him. His eyes turned pitch black. Thick demonic energy surged from them, and streaks of dark purple-black lines spread from his forehead down to his neck. Su Zimo looked up, his gaze indifferent, staring straight at the incoming god race. Jiuyu swore she would remember that scene for the rest of her life. It was an afternoon in July, the sun still fairly bright. Hundreds of demon shadows knelt on the ground, gazing reverently ahead. The man in the black robe stood tall and alone, his back figure seeming both mighty and solitary. The deafening drumbeats seemed to drift further away, as if growing more and more distant. In her eyes, there was only that man. Demonic energy raged around them. Boundless demonic might spread over the land, and in that moment, the world fell completely silent. Even the drumbeats vanished. My subjects. Su Zimo slowly extended his hand. Looking at the demons behind him, he said softly, "Since you are but obsessions, then disperse. I swear one day I will truly reign over this world. Wherever the sun and moon shine, it shall be demon soil. Wherever rivers flow, all shall bow to me." The hundreds of demons behind him all prostrated, their eyes gradually clearing, and their lingering obsessions slowly dissipated into the distant sky. As the demons faded away, the god race's obsessions began to dissipate as well. The demonic energy around Su Zimo slowly withdrew. A breeze blew past, as if nothing had happened. Jiuyu shook her head to snap herself out of it, suddenly aware that the area had fallen into complete silence. "Get up," Su Zimo said as he walked over. "You just now." Jiuyu hesitated, unsure how to ask. "You saw nothing," Su Zimo replied and walked on. In the distance, Feng Changyan and the other two hadn't gone far. Seeing the obsessions dissipate, they hurried back. "Miss Jiuyu, Brother Lin, are you all right?" Feng Changyan shouted from afar. "We're fine," Su Zimo replied, shaking his head. "Why didn't you run earlier?" Feng Changyan breathed a sigh of relief as he got closer. "And how did those obsessions vanish so quickly?" "Daybreak," Su Zimo said calmly, looking up at the whitening sky. "Ah, is that so?" Feng Changyan looked up. "No wonder. You two are lucky. Obsessions only appear at night. During the day, the battlefield is relatively safe." Beside him, Jiuyu remained silent, her mind filled with the scene from earlier. She glanced at Su Zimo, head lowered, lost in thought. "Weren't we going to the demon tomb?" Su Zimo asked. "When you didn't come out, we were about to head back to Wind Thunder Tower." Feng Changyin scratched his head and smiled. "Let's go together." The five of them continued toward the tomb. Jiuyu remained heavy-hearted. Feng Yue, timid, said little. Only Feng Changyin remained chatty, keeping the conversation going with all kinds of topics. He gave Su Zimo a detailed account of the god-demon battlefield, showing he'd done plenty of homework beforehand. After walking for half a day, they finally arrived at their destination around noon, the so-called Demon Tomb. Ahead, the tomb was blocked by a group of yellow-robed disciples. It wasn't very large and was sealed off from all four directions. Some rogue cultivators stood around, pointing and whispering, but none dared to force their way in. "This place belongs to everyone. Do they really think they can block us all out?" Some rogue cultivators grumbled angrily. "Those 9 Dragons Villa people are too arrogant. They only let powerful individuals or major sects in. For people like us, even if we resist, we're no match, so they don't care." Su Zimo glanced around, then looked at Feng Changyan. "Isn't Wind Thunder Tower a known name? You guys can't get in either." "Nope. Our Grand Elder is only at peak Fusion Heaven realm. Not good enough in their eyes," Feng Changyan sighed. "Either a Fusion Heaven expert must come in person, or your sect must be at the Grand Empyrean level. Otherwise, they won't care. Should we just force our way in?" Feng Changyin suggested. Without a word, Su Zimo simply walked straight toward the tomb. "Stop right there." Several yellow-robed disciples immediately blocked him. Their robes bore embroidered patterns of 9 coiling dragons. Each held axes or halberds, standing firmly in his way. "Which sect are you from?" one asked loudly. "Eternal God Sect," Su Zimo replied as he pulled out a token that Gong Chuha had given him. It was a high-level badge from the Eternal God Sect, something even inner disciples rarely possessed. When the leader of the 9 Dragons Villa disciples saw it, he immediately stepped aside and opened a path. "Please go ahead," the leader said politely. Though 9 Dragons Villa had a formidable reputation, they were only among the stronger factions at the Empyrean level, still a step below true god-level sects. Su Zimo led the group inside. As they reached the tomb's entrance, Su Zimo finally looked up to inspect it. The surface area of the tomb wasn't large. Its surrounding walls were made of demon glare stone. Inside the gate, rows of black pine trees, Demon pines lined the pathway, exuding a faint fragrance. In the center of the pine grove was an open entrance to an underground chamber. The doorway descended into pitch-black darkness, the bottom unseen. They say someone accidentally opened this tomb. Once inside, they were corroded by demonic energy, and that's when it became public knowledge, Feng Changyin explained. Are we going in? Jiu asked. Su Zimo nodded and took the lead. The portal beneath was a void-like space, resembling a spatial teleportation array. As Su Zimo entered, he immediately lost his footing and plummeted downward, into what seemed like a bottomless abyss. In that darkness, there was no stable footing. The space was completely chaotic. Any resistance could distort the spatial trajectory, and one might be teleported to who knows where. Su Zimo let his body fall freely. Who knows how long he descended, before the darkness faded and his feet landed on solid ground. Soon after, Jiu and the others fell through as well. Su Zimo looked up. The area around them was desolate, almost entirely barren. Only one thing stood out ahead, a massive mountain of white bones. This mountain was made entirely of skeletal remains. It was impossible to guess how many bodies had been used to build it. Every bone emitted faint traces of god power. Clearly, they were all corpses of the god race. This is the place, Feng Changyin said beside them. Last time we came in, we were chased out immediately, barely escaped with our lives. Chapter 712, Atop the Mountain of Bones. The five of them looked toward the Bone Mountain. Though it was clearly formed from the white bones of the god race, it gave off an unusually baleful feeling. It was as if overwhelming baleful energy surged within. Let's go take a look, Su Zimo said. If there was anything good, it's probably already been taken, Feng Changyin commented from the side. Hopefully we can still get a taste of the leftovers. The demon tomb isn't that simple. Maybe they didn't live long enough to take anything. Feng Changyin snorted coldly. The five headed toward Bone Mountain. The baleful energy in this land was overwhelming. Even the grass beneath their feet had been corrupted by it. Occasionally, a breeze would pass, but it was a black baleful wind. Hard to imagine how powerful the god and demon races once were, Feng Changyin sighed. When they reached the foot of the mountain, they saw many figures in their field of vision. Their arrival didn't draw much attention, as there were already nearly 100 people from various factions present. Nine Dragons Villa, Misty Illusion Palace, Wind Sword Sect, Fire Moon Gate. So many factions, Feng Changyin remarked as he looked around. Looks like this demon tomb is no ordinary place. Otherwise, it wouldn't attract this many people. Feng Changyin walked up to someone nearby and smiled as he asked, Brother, why are you all staying at the base? Not going up. The young man turned and replied flatly. The Bone Mountain is full of danger. None of us dare climb. Anyone below Fusion Heaven Realm goes up and dies. Hearing this, Su Zimo's eyes flashed with interest. He turned to Jiu and the others and said, You all wait here. I'll go take a look. Though Feng Changyin and the others felt a little unwilling, they weren't ready to risk their lives. As Su Zimo stepped forward, the surrounding crowd immediately cast their gaze over. Look, someone else is going up. Who is that? Looks unfamiliar. This Bone Mountain is creepy. Better not get too close. No one who went up has come back down yet. Bone Mountain was towering and eerie. Standing at its base, one could better sense its oppressive aura. Between the bones that made up the mountain, the intertwining structure looked like dense branches twisting together. The cold gleam of bone was everywhere. There were no paths on this mountain, just steep skeletal ridges that had to be climbed step by step. Su Zimo pressed his feet firmly and began scaling the Bone Mountain toward its summit. The god bones had long lost their god energy and were now saturated with baleful aura. Anyone not of the demon race who touched them would be instantly corroded. But this didn't affect Su Zimo at all. He moved swiftly and climbed nearly 100 meters in just a few breaths. Suddenly, he spotted a corpse ahead. Judging by the clothing, it was someone from Fire Moon Gate. Su Zimo approached and found the person's face blackened, their body fully consumed by baleful energy. He paused to think for a moment and continued upward. Before long, the sounds of battle reached his ears. Ahead, there was a concave area formed of bones. The bones looked like a gaping mouth, clinging to the side of the mountain. A man and woman were battling dozens of baleful creatures. These demons looked like children, less than a meter tall, wielding little hammers and laughing as they fought. The two were clearly trapped, and it looked like escape was unlikely. Su Zimo stepped through the air to the outer edge of the encirclement. "Friend, help us!" The man and woman's eyes lit up when they saw him and quickly called for help. "I'm an elder of the Pure Yang sect. Save me, and I'll reward you greatly." Su Zimo smiled faintly and stepped directly into the encirclement. The demons all stopped their attacks and stared at Su Zimo with puzzled expressions. "Thank you, friend, for rescuing." The man didn't even finish speaking before a loud puff sound rang out. His pupils widened in shock. Both of their chests had been pierced by Su Zimo, who had pulled out their hearts. "No need to thank me," Su Zimo said with a smile, tossing the hearts to the ground. The two bodies fell stiffly. "Who's your leader?" Su Zimo asked the demons. The demons glanced at each other, then giggled and scattered in different directions. "Just spirit bodies?" Su Zimo muttered, frowning. So-called spirit bodies weren't real demons. They had no independent consciousness and were controlled by true members of the demon race. They would attack any living being that wasn't of the demon race. Su Zimo thought about it and realized it made sense. Even demon race remnants were rare in the battlefield. True demons would be even harder to find. He decided to continue upward. He was now very close to the summit. After climbing for another 10+ minutes, he finally reached the top. Along the way, he encountered several more corpses. Some had reached peak fusion heaven realm, though he hadn't seen any Grand Empyreans. Most Grand Empyreans stayed hidden in seclusion, preparing to break through to the godly monarch realm and attempt the immortal Dao Bridge. Those active in the world were mainly half-Empyreans or peak fusion heaven cultivators. The closer he got to the summit, the more bodies he saw. When Su Zimo arrived at the top, only 5 people remained. As soon as he stepped up, all 5 eyes turned toward him. "A little kid?" A white-haired elder looked at Su Zimo with surprise and chuckled. "You look unfamiliar, friend. What's your name?" A scholarly man beside him asked with a smile. No one underestimated Su Zimo due to his apparent youth. After all, getting to the summit was already proof of one's capability. "Rogue cultivator. Name's Su Zimo," he said calmly. He glanced around. The view from the summit wasn't particularly good. Black baleful energy raged all around. Jagged rocks littered the peak. At the very center was a large pit naturally formed from white bones. Baleful energy coiled within, obscuring the bottom entirely. "Why haven't you gone down?" Su Zimo asked as he turned to them. The 5 on the summit looked like they were from different factions. There was an elderly man with white hair, a refined scholar, a middle-aged man in a green robe, a seductive woman, and a burly man. Judging by their attire, Su Zimo could recognize a few. "Elder Han just went down. We're waiting for news," the white-haired old man replied. "If there's treasure down there, won't he get it all?" Su Zimo chuckled. The other's eyes narrowed slightly. That was exactly what they were worried about. Chapter 713 Scouring Heavens Above Va Yellow Springs Below. They wanted someone else to go first to see if there was danger, but also feared missing out on an opportunity. The group exchanged glances. The green-robed man said, "Why don't we all go down together? If danger arises, we can support each other. If there's a fortune to be found, we rely on our own skills." "Fine," the burly man nodded. "I agree," the others responded as well. "Then let's go take a look," Su Zimo said. "Young master, you must protect this poor lady down there." The seductive woman stepped in front of Su Zimo, her red lips exhaling fragrant breath as she gazed at him seductively. "Then stick close to me," Su Zimo replied. "What if you eat me up down there, young master?" The woman giggled, her silk ribbons fluttering in the wind as she passed Su Zimo, leaving a fragrant scent in her wake. The group approached the naturally formed pit, where within the thick demonic energy, countless faces formed of that energy roared and howled. Without saying much more, Suzimo was the first to jump in. The other's eyes flashed with subtle emotions but followed soon after. As Suzimo descended in midair, he realized that the space at the bottom of the pit held a unique gravitational force. He could not step on air. The pressure forced his body downward. Resisting only made the gravitational force stronger. The others looked somewhat panicked. Once Suzimo was fully submerged in the demonic energy, it surged toward him ferociously. But upon sensing the demonic aura within his body, the energy around him gradually calmed. Suzimo felt perfectly at ease. As if he were a fish in water, his body and mind relaxed in the demonic energy. But the others weren't so lucky. They quickly erected protective barriers around themselves. The demonic energy clashed continuously with their shields. "What now?" The white-haired elder frowned. "In here, my spirit force is draining fast and can't be replenished. We must move quickly." The others nodded in agreement. Suzimo looked ahead. Amidst the thick demonic fog, a small bridge lay before them. On either side of the bridge rolled rivers as black as ink, the surface bubbling constantly. At the beginning of the bridge, a corpse rested against the stone marker. As for what lay at the end of the bridge, the fog was too dense to see. "This place isn't simple," the green-robed man whispered. They approached the bridge marker and saw a massive stone stele standing upright. It was covered in cracks, clearly ancient. Etched in large, pitch-black characters on the stele was a phrase, "Scouring the heavens above and the yellow springs below. Bone demon atop Bone Mountain." "Isn't that Elder Han?" one of them exclaimed in shock. The corpse at the bridgehead wore tattered robes, its blood and flesh seemingly drained dry. The gaunt face was still somewhat recognizable. "It's Elder Han," the white-haired man confirmed with a deep breath. "He was as strong as us. I can't believe he died silently down here. No wonder he never came back." "Can anyone interpret that line?" The burly man scratched his head. "Bone demon atop Bone Mountain." The scholarly man squinted. "Could that be referring to the owner of this tomb? Are we still going forward?" The seductive woman asked. "We're already here, what else can we do?" The green-robed man replied. "I tried just now, this pit's gravitational field is too strong. We can't climb back up with our strength." "So we're all trapped here?" the burly man asked. "That's one way to look at it. Before we run out of spirit force, we can only keep moving." "This demonic energy is too fierce," said the green-robed man. With no other choice, the group began walking onto the bridge. The corpse of Elder Han served as a grim reminder, putting everyone on high alert as they carefully watched their surroundings. As they reached the middle of the bridge, a sudden boom echoed. Waves exploded across the lake, and the dark depths of the water began to stir. Ripples spread layer by layer, as if something terrifying was about to emerge. "BFFF." Before anyone could react, a scream rang out. "Ah!" Everyone turned to see a black tendril piercing the burly man's chest. In just a few breaths, the tendril sucked all the flesh and blood from his body. His corpse looked identical to Elder Han's. That tendril also visibly thickened. Then several more explosions rang out as dozens of black tendrils emerged from the lake. "Run to the other side of the bridge," the scholarly man shouted. His aura surged as he sprinted ahead. Several tendrils targeted Suzimo. His eyes surged with demonic power, and he glared sharply at the rippling center of the lake. The creature below seemed to feel something and quickly pulled its tendrils back, allowing Suzimo to cross safely. The tendrils lashed in the air like long whips, twisting together. Aside from the tendrils, enormous demon fish occasionally leapt from the lake. The scholarly man was caught off guard and had half his arm bitten off by one. Fortunately, everyone present was battle-hardened and dodged swiftly. Even when struck, no one dared to pause. They simply sprinted toward the far side of the bridge. The bridge wasn't very long, less than 100 meters. The scholarly man was first to reach the far side, followed closely by the green-robed man and the seductive woman. Seeing their prey escape, the creatures in the lake grew enraged. The white-haired elder was last. Countless tendrils tangled around him, forming a dense web that blocked his way. The elder's expression turned grim, and his half-saint aura surged like a tidal wave. "Misty phantom steps," he shouted. His blood flowed in reverse, his eyes turning blood-red. His figure split into dozens of afterimages in midair and charged the net of tendrils. Boom! 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 Explosions echoed all around. One by one, the afterimages were destroyed by the web, but the blasts tore open a gap in the tendril net. The elder burst through, drenched in blood. Chapter 7:14, Infernal Archon 7 Face. When the elder burst out from the entrapment of the giant net, his figure fell directly to the end of the bridge, collapsing in a pool of blood. "Elder Guokue, are you all right?" The others rushed over to check on the white-haired elder. "I just burned my own blood essence to unleash the secret technique of our Misty Illusion sect. Now I'm barely clinging to life," the white-haired elder said weakly. "I'm done chasing opportunities here. I only ask that you all spare my life. Our Misty Illusion sect will be forever grateful." "Don't say that, Elder Gua. The situation is unclear, and we're all in this together. We should stick together," the green-robed man replied, shaking his head. "That young man hasn't come over yet," the seductive woman said. Everyone looked up. There had been 6 of them earlier. Now only 4 remained. Su Zimo and the burly man were presumed dead on the bridge. Even the 4 who made it across were severely wounded. The white-haired elder had basically lost all combat strength. The scholarly man had lost half an arm, and the other 2 were bleeding all over, with little strength left for a fight. After crossing the bridge, the group began to take in their surroundings. Directly ahead stood a massive palace. The hall was also constructed from white bones, its gates tightly shut. Above the gate, a massive and grotesque white skull was embedded into the structure. The large characters Bone Hall came into view. "What kind of place is this?" the seductive woman asked, shivering and hugging her arms. "No idea," the green-robed man replied, shaking his head. "Let's rest here until our wounds heal before moving forward." Everyone nodded in agreement. However, before they could make a move, the sound of creaking echoed out. "That's sealed." Ancient bone gates slowly opened. As though for the first time in countless ages, the door groaned open. The sound was grating, like teeth grinding, unbearably discomforting. The group stared in horror toward the dark hall, which was shrouded in black demonic energy. Only at the far end could they make out a bone throne. On the throne sat a man in a black robe, his expression indifferent. His body was completely covered by his robe, his bald head blood-red, eyes like sharp hawk eyes, gloomy and piercing. He had a tall nose but no ears. Behind the robe was a blood-red cape, embroidered with the image of a skull. "Why have you disturbed my slumber?" came a low, raspy voice from within. The black-robed man stood, and at that moment, demonic energy surged violently within the hall. Roars echoed from the twisted faces formed of that energy. "To this?" The group gasped and stumbled back. But the bridge was behind them. There was nowhere to retreat. In their current state, just setting foot on the bridge could cut off someone else's escape. They swallowed hard. The black-robed man took a step forward. Each step he took felt like it was stomping on their hearts. Their heartbeats quickened involuntarily. The demonic aura grew stronger and more turbulent. His red cape billowed, and when he stepped out of the hall, he raised his right hand gently. With 2 sharp, cracking sounds, countless white bones erupted from the ground. The sharp bones pierced through the 4 people, pinning them to the jagged spikes. Blood dripped steadily down the bone spikes. They weren't killed instantly, but left to suffer in agony, only dying after struggling in torment. Just then, footsteps echoed from the bridge. The group forced their eyes to look. Su Zimo approached slowly, his body surging with demonic energy. The aura around him was even more overwhelming than the palace itself. The entire demonic lake was engulfed in his presence. He, the seductive woman muttered, blood trickling from her lips, her eyes filled with terror as if she'd seen a ghost. Su Zimo stared at the black-robed man, who looked back at him. As Su Zimo stepped closer, the man's body began to tremble uncontrollably. His pupils contracted sharply as he stared at Su Zimo in disbelief. My lord, though there are things I still don't fully remember, as you can see, I've returned, Su Zimo said calmly. Kneeling before my lord, the first vanguard of the Nightmare Demon Legion under Lord Sevenface. Bone Demon greets the Supreme One. The black-robed man dropped to one knee, his voice booming with reverence and awe. From the demonic lake, the waters churned. A massive head slowly surfaced from the depths. It was a demonic octopus. Its dark eyes locked on Su Zimo, and countless tentacles intertwined, also bowing in submission. Rise, my first vanguard. Su Zimo nodded and said, Infernal Lord. The scholarly man on the bone spike barely managed to croak out before finally dying. Bone Demon glanced at the corpses on the spikes and, fearing they'd disturb Su Zimo, waved his hand. The bone spikes instantly crushed the bodies into powder, which scattered into the surrounding demonic energy. Su Zimo walked step by step into the bone hall, Bone Demon following reverently behind. Are you the only one here? Su Zimo asked. I was ordered by Lord Sevenface to guard his seven-faced lotus. Bone Demon replied with a nod. The seven-faced infernal archon, huh? Su Zimo muttered. In fragmented memories from the past, he had seen many scenes. The infernal lord had 10 infernal archons. Paimon was the archon of despair, and the seven-faced was among them. Arriving at the bone hall, Su Zimo saw the place was empty. Nothing but endless demonic energy and the throne. But with a wave of Bone Demon's hand, the hall's demonic mist parted, revealing a hidden chamber. The chamber was small, containing a pond. The pond was filled with thick, black demonic water, sticky and ominous. At the center of the pond, a lotus flower was growing. It had 5 petals along with leaves and roots. Su Zimo's eyes narrowed. The lotus instantly reminded him of someone. When he left the God Demon City, he had seen a statue of a demon. The man wore a black robe with a tight waist and held a lotus just like this. Su Zimo felt as though he was starting to understand something. He looked at the lotus and said to Bone Demon, Come with me. Chapter 7:15. What the hell kind of logic is that? Your subordinate swears to follow the Lord to the death. Bone Demon quickly bowed and said respectfully, Leave the seven-faced lotus here. Let Seven-Face come fetch it himself. Su Zimo said, Don't worry about it. If anyone dares to take it, slaughter their entire clan. As you command. Bone Demon nodded in reply. The gates of the Bone Hall closed once again. Bone Demon cloaked himself in his oversized black robe and followed Su Zimo out. As they passed the bridge, Bone Demon gently patted the smooth head of the demonic octopus and said, You stay and guard this place. Wait for Lord Sevenface to arrive. How did you end up in this world? Su Zimo asked. When the Blessed Epoch was destroyed, part of the demon race died in the catastrophe, and the rest were scattered to various worlds, Bone Demon explained. From the moment we awoke again, we found ourselves here. Tell me about the gods. I'm curious, Su Zimo asked. Gods? Just a bunch of petty schemers. Bone Demon snorted. Back when Lord Sevenface led us, our demon remnants rapidly grew in power. We almost dominated this world. He pointed up at the sky and scoffed. Someone didn't want us to monopolize everything, so they sent so-called gods to restrain us. People from the outer heavens? Su Zimo asked. Have you heard of the 10 god bloodlines? Bone Demon asked. Su Zimo nodded. When Heaven's equal emperor had taught him the heaven-shattering god scripture, he had mentioned the 10 primordial god scriptures and the 10 god bloodlines. The ones sent to restrain us this time were from one of the 10 god bloodlines, the Samsara god bloodline, Bone Demon said. At first, both sides were evenly matched, but we were just remnants with no reinforcements. The gods, on the other hand, had endless support. Millions of years ago, we realized we'd eventually be worn down. So Lord Sevenface launched a world-shattering war. The end of the god-demon era, Su Zimo murmured. And then, I failed. The demon army was completely wiped out. But we almost annihilated the Samsara bloodline as well, Bone Demon said with pain. Lord Sevenface fought the godly monarch to the death in the God Valley. He killed the godly monarch, but vanished himself. Maybe, I know where he is, Su Zimo said. You do, my lord? Bone Demon looked up, face full of excitement. It's just a guess. Needs to be verified, Su Zimo replied. Is there anyone else from the demon race left in this battlefield? Probably not. At most, maybe a few remnants, Bone Demon answered. Remnants? Meaning the offspring of demons and regular humans? Su Zimo guessed. Yes, but their blood is too thin. After generations of dilution, they eventually disappear, Bone Demon said. Unless one day they manage to awaken their ancestral blood. But that's incredibly rare. As they spoke, the two walked down Whitebone Mountain. Below the mountain, the onlookers were still waiting. Jiuyu among them, all wondering what had happened. Bone Demon stayed hidden in his black cloak. When they saw Su Zimo walking down casually with a cloaked stranger, the crowd erupted in noise. Where are the others? Don't tell me they all died? And this guy got everything. Maybe. I better report this to the sect. Ignoring the noise, Su Zimo said to Bone Demon, Kill everyone except that woman. Bone Demon nodded. As they descended Whitebone Mountain, Bone Demon lifted his head. His hawk-like eyes surged with black demonic energy. With a wave of his hand, the entire mountain trembled. Countless bones separated from the mountain, forming bone arrows that shot toward the crowd. The arrows were fast, infused with demonic energy. Tens of thousands of them rained down like a storm, impossible to dodge. Ah! Agonized screams erupted below. Corpses were pinned to the ground, skulls pierced through. Some were riddled with so many arrows they looked like pin cushions. Only Jiuyu remained standing in shock. Let's go, Su Zimo said as he passed her. Jiuyu snapped out of it and turned to see Feng Changyan and the others, all dead beyond saving. Why did you kill even them? We at least crossed paths, she asked in disbelief. You said it yourself, just a passing acquaintance. Why take it so seriously? Su Zimo replied with a smile. So this is what it means to be a demon? Jiuyu stood frozen, eyes locked onto Su Zimo. Don't talk to me in that tone. Su Zimo stopped and looked at her coldly. With a wave of his hand, Jiuyu was flung backward, slamming into Whitebone Mountain. I hate that tone the most. What is a demon? Once something gets labeled, it's condemned without question. Demons have good and evil just like anyone. Morality is decided in a single thought. Su Zimo walked forward, grabbed Jiuyu by the collar, and lifted her up. The noon sun shone from above, catching the strands of her long black hair in its light. Blood trickled from the corner of her mouth. I think you need to get your priorities straight. These people came to my demon race's tomb with bad intentions, seeking our treasures and disturbing our peace. That's why I killed them. Of all the people who stood beneath this mountain, how many were truly innocent? How many didn't come with greed? They invade our tomb and that's okay? I kill them and I'm wrong? What the hell kind of logic is that? Su Zimo added calmly, Isn't it ironic? You're a so-called god, yet you still need me, a demon, to avenge your parents. He tossed Jiuyu aside and walked out of the tomb. If you want revenge, take me to God Valley. If not, we part ways here. Jiuyu watched his silhouette slowly disappear. Her eyes flickered, lost in thought. My lord, are you really going to spare her? Bone Demon asked softly, following behind. If she doesn't follow before we leave the tomb, kill her, Su Zimo said flatly. She knows too much. If she won't follow, she's meaningless. Just as Su Zimo was almost out of sight, Jiuyu suddenly staggered to her feet and ran after him. Wait! I'll take you, she shouted. She wiped the blood from her lips and hurried to catch up. Changed your mind? Suzimo asked. I just want revenge, Joyu said after a moment's silence. Chapter 7:16 Celestial God Town. I'll take you to see those people outside. Then you'll understand, Suzimo said with a faint smile. The three of them stepped onto the teleportation formation inside the tomb, and in just a blink, they returned to the entrance of the burial ground. Disciples from the Nine Dragons Villa were still guarding the area around the tomb, preventing anyone from entering. Some of the onlookers had already left, thinking there was no point in waiting any longer. Others stayed, still curious to see who would emerge victorious. When Suzimo and the other two walked out of the tomb, the surrounding crowd immediately began to stir. Look! Someone's coming out. Who is it? Looks like unfamiliar faces. Only 3 of them? Where did the others go? You're not going to kill them too, are you? Joyu looked at Suzimo and asked. Bone, take off your hood, Suzimo ordered. Bone Demon lifted his head and removed the hood covering his head, revealing his demonic energy, surging red skull. When everyone saw this, the crowd instantly erupted like a boiling pot. Demon! A demon has resurrected. This is a demon tomb, so having a demon appear is normal. But there are so many of us, we shouldn't be afraid of him. Exactly. These demons are pure evil. He's alone. There's no way we can let the demons rise again. Let's kill him. Everyone attack together. I heard demon corpses are worth a lot right now. Hand it over to the sects and maybe get a huge reward. In just a few short minutes, all the surrounding people had come to a unified decision. Suzimo smiled and said to Joyu, See? We haven't done anything, and in their eyes we're already evil. As long as you're a demon, good or bad, you'll always be labeled evil. Do you think they're the good guys? Hearing his words, Joyu fell silent. Around them, people raised their swords and blades, all rushing toward the trio. Bone Demon narrowed his gaze. He raised his right hand and gripped the index finger of his left, then snapped it clean off. Withering Bone Tree, Bone Demon said as he tossed the severed finger to the ground like a seed. Within a few breaths, the earth sprouted a towering white bone tree that reached to the sky. The people charging forward were instantly separated by the tree, which then extended its bone branches. The branches grabbed and bound the surrounding people. With jagged teeth and wide-open jaws, the tree devoured them one by one as nourishment. Within seconds, the crowd had no time to react or flee. There were at least 100 bone branches, and even more terrifying roots extended dozens of kilometers underground. The people became nothing but fertilizer. After the bone tree had its fill, it let out a satisfied burp and transformed back into a severed finger, returning to Bone Demon's hand. Peace and quiet. How refreshing, Suzimo chuckled. Let's go. Time to head to God Valley. The 3 of them headed east. By then, dusk had fallen again. Their shadows stretched long under the setting sun. Overhead, a lone bird soared past. I think I get it now, Joyu suddenly spoke. Get what? Suzimo asked. A person's nature, good or evil, depends on themselves. It doesn't matter whether they're demon, beast, god, or human, Joyu said. Not bad. Humans have the 7 emotions and 6 desires. A true great sage doesn't really exist. Every being has both light and dark in them. Some may seem refined on the surface, but behind the scenes, they're no better than scum. Those who can control their darkness are good. Those who can't are evil. Or rather, everyone has their own ruler in their heart. The standard for good and evil isn't the same for everyone. Suzimo looked up at the dying sunlight above and smiled. This mortal world's greatest skill is erasing the wild spirit of the bold, grinding down the pride of the lofty, and destroying the defiance of the unyielding. God Valley lay within a canyon in the northern region of the God Race. It was once one of the God Race's most important places. After the disappearance of both gods and demons, it was said that a mighty god cast a powerful spell, banishing the canyon into the void. But only the true descendants of the God Race knew that places like this, much like the divine temples, had only been sealed away. Without the bloodline of the gods, there was no way to access them. To be precise, it's not just God race bloodline now. They are better known as the Samsara bloodline. If you find where they live, are you going to wipe out all remaining members of the God race? Jiu asked. What do you mean by that? Su Zimo smiled. I know how you operate. I won't deny that some from the God race deserve to die, but most of them are innocent, Jiu said. They didn't choose to be born into it. They're just remnants. I believe there are good people among them. I'm not some mad slaughterer. I only kill those who block my path, Su Zimo replied. If they don't block me, killing them is meaningless to me. But if they do, even if it's you, I won't hold back. Jiu lowered her head and nodded, then looked ahead, taking a deep breath. We're here, she said softly. Su Zimo looked forward and saw nothing, just an endless plain with a few large trees scattered around. Jiu walked to one of the trees and let the blood from her index finger drip into its trunk. As the blood seeped in, the tree began to tremble. A moment later, an illusory gate formed in front of them. I heard from my people that the God Valley isn't in the same dimension as the Eternal Lands, Jiu explained. That's why normal people can't find it. Su Zimo and Bone Demon stepped through the gate into the void. There was no sense of teleportation. It simply felt like stepping through a door into a whole new world. Darkness was immediately replaced by light. The group appeared in front of a massive canyon. Looking around, the canyon resembled a prehistoric beast lying dormant across the land. On either side of the canyon's entrance were two massive statues, likely of significant figures from the god race. Directly ahead stood a tall, white gate. Celestial God Valley was inscribed on the plaque above it. The gate was carved with countless figures, presumably ancestors of the god race. Looking beyond the gate, the canyon had buildings on either side, resembling a small town. Children chased each other through the streets. Above them came a sharp bird cry. A giant bird soared overhead, blocking out the sun with its massive wings. Things have changed a lot, Jiu murmured. Looks like you're doing pretty well, Su Zimo said with a smile. The three of them entered through the gate. Inside, it wasn't exactly bustling. Aside from the children playing, a few people stood scattered in front of houses on both sides. Chapter 717 Patriarch of the God Race. Su Zimo glanced around briefly. The shops on both sides sold all kinds of goods. There were taverns, blacksmiths, herbal stores, and more. This street was quite long, stretching along the canyon into the distance. This is where the remnants of the God race live? Su Zimo asked. When I was here before, it was still rather desolate. I didn't expect it to change so much, Jiu said with emotion. Where's the leader of the God race remnants? Su Zimo asked. Jiu looked around and said, Let me take you directly to the Forbidden Zone. They're probably there. The surrounding remnants looked at the three of them. Although their faces were unfamiliar, no one thought much of it. After all, the number of remnants had grown so much, it wasn't possible to know everyone. As they passed through several streets, the deeper they went, the more remnants they encountered. At the center was a market square, where all the remnants' trade took place. It was bustling and full of life. The oval-shaped marketplace stretched nearly a kilometer long. In the past, the Patriarch would distribute cultivation resources. Now we have to acquire everything ourselves, Jiu explained. From the outside, there's no difference between remnants and ordinary humans. We often blend into human societies. It was lively here. Some were selling swords they had obtained. Others dragged massive demonic beast corpses slowly through the area. The history of the god race had long since vanished. Not only were humans searching for it, these remnants never stopped either. They'd sell and used god race relics here. All kinds of transactions took place. Once we cross this market, we'll reach where the Patriarch lives, Jiu said. Walking through the market, Su Zimo noticed many ancient items for sale at the stalls. Some were genuinely old. Others were fakes, caked in mud to look like buried relics. Come look! A sword once used by a godly monarch, selling cheap, God Race's sacred healing pill can revive the dead, regrow flesh and bones, and might even awaken your God Race bloodline. Vendors shouted loudly all around, flaunting all kinds of titles. Su Zimo found it amusing. If what Jiuyu said was true, these people were nothing but test subjects raised by those in power. This world was full of different people, everyone struggled to survive. Along the way, Bone Demon kept himself concealed to avoid alerting anyone. In fact, these remnants weren't truly God Race members, so whether they lived or died didn't matter to Su Zimo. He simply needed strong bloodlines to unlock the demon-locking bell. If he was in a good mood, maybe he'd help Jiuyu get revenge along the way. After the three of them exited the market, a passage appeared ahead. The large gate at the passage entrance was wide open, guarded on both sides, making it difficult to enter. Su Zimo walked straight forward. Before the two guards could react, Bone Demon waved his hand and silently killed them, pinning them to the walls of the passage. The movement was subtle. The bone spikes pierced their stomachs, and because their bodies were propped up, it was hard to notice they were dead without a closer look. The three entered the passage, which was about 10 meters long. Just as they exited, there was a loud bang behind them. The gate slammed shut. Su Zimo looked up. The view ahead opened up to a large empty space, resembling a plaza, around several thousand square meters wide. At the far end of the plaza stood a tall statue. "That's the forbidden area." Jiuyu pointed at the statue and said softly. The statue's gender was indiscernible. It had short hair, and its face was carved with a soft, feminine look. 2 pairs of wings extended from its back, and it stood atop a giant bird, its body completely snow-white. "Looks like we don't need to make a move. They've already come to greet us?" Su Zimo smiled. "What do you mean?" Jiuyu asked, puzzled. Just as she spoke, a round of applause came from the side. "How bold! You demon remnants dare to walk into our celestial god valley on your own." An aged voice echoed from nearby. Jiuyu turned sharply and saw 3 elderly men walking over, all wearing light white high-collared robes, exuding immense pressure. "That's the Patriarch and the 2 guardians," Jiuyu said quickly. The elder in the center had completely white hair and beard. He held something resembling a compass in his hand. The needle inside spun rapidly, pointing directly at Su Zimo and the others. "This is our God Race's treasure, the demon-pointing needle. If it hadn't sounded the alarm, we would have been fooled," the Patriarch said coldly. "Looks like there's a traitor in the race. How did you get in?" "Patriarch, long time no see," Jiuyu said. Her eyes filled with hatred as she stared at him, gritting her teeth. "Oh?" The old man looked at Jiuyu in surprise. After a moment of thought, he sneered. "I remember who you are. The traitor who trespassed into the forbidden zone. If I hadn't entered by accident, I'd still be in the dark about your disgusting experiments," Jiuyu replied coldly. "What now? After all these years on the run, you've sided with demon remnants?" The old man laughed. "You think they'll help you get revenge? Once we awaken the divine blood in our veins, the entire eternal lands will bow before us." "A bunch of weak-blooded remnants dreaming of glory," Bone Demon sneered. The bones in his hand spun rapidly. He waved his right hand, and countless bone spikes shot toward the 3 elders. "You've chosen death. Today, you'll serve as sacrifices for my research," the elder roared. A pale white aura surged from his body, and his bloodline reversed like boiling water. The pressure around them intensified. Divine power surged from the elders' bodies. The bone spikes that flew toward them were shattered by a single palm strike from the Patriarch. At that moment, the 2 guardians took positions on either side. The Patriarch's white hair flew wildly as he raised his massive hand like a true god descending, bringing it crashing down from above. "Interesting. Looks like you've actually figured something out," Bone Demon sneered. He threw a punch toward the descending palm. His fist was covered in sharp bone spikes. When fist and palm collided, a cruel smile appeared on Bone Demon's face. The spikes pierced through the elder's palm and spread up into his arm. A pained scream echoed across the empty plaza. "You're no demon remnant," the elder shouted. Chapter 718 Radiant God. Upon hearing the elder's words, Bone Demon slowly removed the hat from his head. His crimson skull, with eyes surging with demonic energy, stared coldly at the elder. "Demon, you're a demon?" the patriarch of the god race exclaimed, instinctively stepping back 2 steps. The 2 guardian elders beside him also tensed up noticeably. "What, scared?" Bone Demon chuckled. The elder's expression grew dark, but he quickly regained composure. He looked at Bone Demon and asked, "Why have you come to our God Valley? You're not really thinking of exterminating us, are you?" "I don't know if the remnants outside will die, but you definitely will," Bone Demon replied. He crossed his arms as bones crackled and snapped around him, stepping toward the elder. "Together!" the patriarch shouted to the 2 guardian elders. In that instant, all 3 emitted brilliant white light from their bodies. Dense divine power surged around them, their expressions solemn, like gods from the past descending to earth. Not truly of the Samsara god bloodline, but they're clearly much stronger than the remnants outside, Suzimo muttered to himself. Divine power radiated from the 3 as they charged toward Bone Demon. "How foolish!" Bone Demon snorted coldly. Surging demonic energy rolled across the bones around him, blanketing the surrounding space. He smashed one elder into the ground with a single punch. The floor beneath shattered with a loud boom, and the guardian elder, covered in blood, collapsed. Another guardian elder circled behind Bone Demon and struck his back with a palm. With a bang, Bone Demon remained unscathed, while the elder was instantly engulfed by demonic energy. His divine power eroded away bit by bit as he screamed in pain. As for the patriarch, while the 2 guardians fought, he turned and fled toward the forbidden area. "He can't escape," Suzimo said calmly to a worried Jiuyu. He took out the demon-locking bell and approached the 2 fallen guardians. He extracted their essence blood and slowly let it drip into the bell. As the blood touched it, the ancient bell let out 2 faint rings. Wisps of demonic energy seeped out, but after the 2 chimes, the bell returned to silence. "Seems the bloodline still isn't strong enough," Suzimo murmured. The 3 then headed toward the forbidden area. Crossing the empty plaza, they arrived at the entrance of the forbidden grounds. The area was surrounded by walls. The ground was overgrown with weeds, and these plants seemed to have some divine awareness, reacting to any who entered. At this moment, the gate had already been opened by the fleeing elder. That elder had clearly run into the forbidden grounds. Bone Demon looked up at the imposing statue before them and frowned. "I sense a strong divine power." As they entered the forbidden area, Jiuyu realized it resembled a zoo. Inside were countless cages, each imprisoning a remnant used for experimentation. Some were so tortured they no longer looked human. Their throats had been ruined, rendering them speechless, only able to grunt faintly. Jiuyu glanced around. There were at least several hundred captives. Her body trembled slightly at the sight. Suzimo moved deeper into the forbidden area and found an altar at the end. The altar wasn't large, shaped like a hexagon, and seemed to hold a formation. To one side of the altar was a pool. The pool was filled with thick blood, already foul-smelling from time. The elder sat solemnly at the altar's center, seemingly in prayer. "If you had run earlier, you might have escaped. Since you insist on walking to your deaths, then so be it," the elder shouted. The blood in the pool began to boil. This wasn't ordinary blood. It was the essence blood from the bodies of God race remnants. Each person's essence blood was limited. Who knew how many had to die to gather so much? The hexagonal formation glowed with divine radiance, godly energy swirling around it. Within the blood pool, the essence blood coalesced into a floating crimson orb. Bone Demon tried to intervene, but Suzimo stopped him. "It's a summoning," Bone Demon said. "Let him summon. If a true Samsara god bloodline descends, it'll help unlock the demon-locking bell," Suzimo said with a smile. As the red orb floated mid-air, it shot into the void in an instant. Seconds later, The orb reappeared at the gate of the Forbidden Zone, before the massive god race statue. It slowly merged into the statue's brow. The statue began to tremble as its stone surface cracked and fell away. The pace quickened, as if something inside was awakening. Mighty radiant god, awaken! The elder cackled maniacally at the altar. Looks like some of the god race survived that ancient war, Bone Demon scoffed. No rush. I'm curious to see these so-called 10-god bloodlines, Suzimo said, waving his hand. As the statue crumbled, the previously dormant light within began to radiate. The sky changed. Vast divine power erupted from the statue, stirring the heavens. The statue's arm moved slightly, followed by a loud explosion. Dust flew. From the haze, a pair of eyes slowly opened. When the dust cleared, a man emerged. He was shirtless, with bronzed muscular skin exuding explosive power. His blood flowed in reverse, cycling as if trapped in samsara. Illusory runes etched themselves across his flesh. His hair was snow-white, and starlight flickered in his eyes as he stepped through the dust. Gu Yun, why have you summoned me? He asked the elder at the altar. The elder remnant's name was Gu Yun. Radiant God, the demons have revived. I couldn't handle them and had to call on you, Gu Yun said, bowing hastily. The man furrowed his brows, turning to look at Bone Demon. He snorted. Bone, you barely survived that great war and didn't have the sense to stay hidden? You dare challenge our god race again? I was wondering who it was. Turns out it's you, bastard. Bone Demon replied coldly. Looks like Lord Sevenface didn't teach you well enough back then. Chapter 719 Me? I am Cheong Chi. Upon hearing Bone Demon's words, Radiant God seemed to recall something. His expression turned slightly grim, and his gaze fixed coldly on Bone Demon. He said flatly, just a bunch of stray dogs. If we were in the outer heavens, my Samsara god bloodline would have wiped you out long ago. You should be thankful for the rule restrictions of this world. If you're so powerful, why don't you go challenge the primordial demon cave? I'm sure the demonic beasts there would be happy to meet you. Bone Demon sneered. What happens in the primordial demon cave will be handled by those above. No need to waste words with me, Radiant God replied calmly. As long as I guard the eternal lands, any demon I see will be killed. Then come try. Just a loser from back then. Bone Demon snorted. Demonic energy surged from his body, and the sky split, half filled with demonic energy, half with divine power. Radiant God rode a massive snow-white bird. Behind him, two enormous wings flapped, kicking up flying sand and stones as spatial cracks ripped open around him. He ascended into the air, looking down from above. Fight! He shouted, charging at Bone Demon. Bone Demon drew a white bone blade from his own body. It was formed of countless fine bones, with sharp edges and a chilling glow. Bloodthirsty demonic energy rose from its surface. His body, once human-like, began to shift with cracking sounds. Bones grew larger, forming a white skeletal armor around him. He became much larger. The glowing white bones were now completely corroded by black demonic energy. As Radiant God and Bone Demon clashed in the sky, Suzimo turned to look at the elder nearby. You want to kill him? Suzimo handed a blade to Joyu and asked with a smile. Joyu hesitated, then took the blade and walked slowly toward Gu Yun. Courting death, Gu Yun snorted. Though badly wounded, he didn't think Joyu could touch him. He raised both hands, divine power surging, and struck toward her. You'd best behave like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Suzimo's voice rang out from behind him. What? Gu Yun's face changed drastically. In the next moment, Suzimo appeared behind him and landed a palm on his back. A searing pain stabbed into Gu Yun's soul, as if every bone in his body shattered. He collapsed to the ground like a pile of mud. Joyu gripped the curved blade and stepped in front of him. No, don't! Gu Yun struggled, panicked. You can't kill me. I'm your patriarch. Only I can lead you to revival. Try that line in hell, Joyu shouted, raising the blade. I can't die. I haven't yet become a god. I can't die, Guyun screamed. Radiant God, save me. The blade came down, and a streak of crimson flew through the air. A lifeless head rolled slowly across the ground. Tears streaming down her face, Joyu slashed Guyun's corpse over and over. Even after the body lost all life and became mush, she still didn't stop. Eventually, exhausted, she dropped the blade and broke down sobbing. Father, Mother, your daughter has avenged you. High above, the battle raged on. Seeing Guyun dead, Radiant God spat and said coldly, "Trash." Across from him, Bone Demon's demonic energy exploded like a mushroom cloud. His aura grew stronger and stronger. The blood-black demonic energy engulfed the sky as he fought with increasing ferocity. This was a being born for battle. He feared no pain or death. Every bone of his was forged from death. After refining many god race bones, Bone Demon had even developed a resistance to divine power. Radiant God fought with alarm. Bone Demon was far stronger than during their last encounter. His eyes flicked down toward Su Zimo. His wings spread wide, casting a massive shadow, and the giant bird beneath him let out a cry as it clawed at Bone Demon. Bone Demon didn't flinch. The bird's talons grasped his bones without causing harm. He turned and slashed with his blade, opening a black-blooded wound in the bird's belly. The bird screamed in pain, but in that moment, Radiant God twisted his body and charged toward Su Zimo. To associate with demons, you must not be anything good. You deserve to die. Radiant God snorted coldly. Divine power radiated from his wings as he attacked. Staring at the rapidly approaching Radiant God, Su Zimo murmured, "I suppose I can test my Heaven Unity 3 Gates God scripture on you." "Open the gate of life," Su Zimo intoned. Back when he traveled from the Eternal God sect to the God Demon battlefield, he had spent time training in the God world. Though he had only opened the gate of life while the gate of death and gate of eternity were still incomplete, this was a good chance to test the power of the divine scripture. As the gate of life opened, a pale blue light shone down on Su Zimo's head. Bathed in that glow, his power as a godly monarch surged, pushing toward his body's limits. In truth, he could already become immortal. He had just been holding off to prepare his destiny. As Radiant God attacked, Su Zimo's body shimmered with the pale blue light. He vanished instantly from in front of Radiant God. So fast, Radiant God gasped, staring at the empty air. A moment later, he screamed in agony as Su Zimo appeared behind him and grabbed his wings. With brute force, Su Zimo tore them from Radiant God's flesh. "Ayakak!" Radiant God howled in pain. Bone Demon descended from the sky and flung his bone blade. Suffused with demonic energy, the blade pierced Radiant God's back and impaled his heart. Radiant God struggled to stand. His pupils dilated, and golden blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. Heaven Unity 3 Gates God Scripture, one of the 10 primordial God Scriptures. "Who are you?" he asked coldly, staring at Su Zimo. "I am Cheong Chi of the Seven Fears cult," Su Zimo said calmly. "You Seven Fears cult collude with demons. You're unworthy of guarding the divine scriptures." Radiant God roared. "From now on, there will be no place for you in the outer heavens." Demonic energy surged from the bone blade in his back, destroying his body from within. Just before death, Radiant God raised a hand and wrote 4 golden characters in the air. 7 Fears, Demon Race. Chapter 720. So this is an infernal archon? Radiant God wrote each stroke in midair with his finger. Su Zimo quietly watched without stopping him. When the 4 characters were completed, they turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the sky. "This message has been sent to my Samsara God race. When the 10 God bloodlines unite, your 7 Fears cult will be wiped out." Radiant God spat out a mouthful of blood, clearly at his limit. "Oh, is that so?" Su Zimo nodded and murmured. "Then before I even go to the outer heavens, I've already eliminated 1 enemy." "What are you talking about?" Radiant God asked painfully. Actually, I'm not even close to the Seven Fears cult. That was just something I said on a whim. Suzimo shook his head. Didn't expect you to believe it. Trying to cut ties now? Too late. Radiant God laughed bitterly. The Heaven Unity Three Gates God scripture is guarded by your Seven Fears cult. That's common knowledge. I'll be waiting for you in hell. As he finished speaking, the color faded from his pupils. His body, fully corroded by the bone blade, collapsed to the ground. Poor fool, wouldn't even die with the truth. Suzimo shook his head. He raised his hands, summoning flames to burn Radiant God's body and refine his essence blood. Radiant God's essence blood was unusual. Not red, but golden, dense with energy and heavy as if weighing 1,000 kilos. Suzimo took out the demon-locking bell and carefully dripped the blood onto it. The moment the blood touched the bell, it began to tremble violently. Clicking sounds came from within, as though some ancient lock was breaking. A surge of demonic energy burst through its restraints, shooting into the sky and forming dark clouds above. This aura, Bone Demon said in shock. Lord Sevenface. It must be Lord Sevenface. Suzimo said nothing. He just watched the spinning, shaking bell in his hand. Roars echoed from inside. Suddenly, a beam of light shot out of the demon-locking bell, darkening the sky. Thunder rumbled. Wind and rain surged. What is Sevenface? Love, hate, greed, anger, obsession, evil, and desire. These are the 7 emotions of all beings, inescapable, eternal in the cycle of reincarnation. The 7 emotions condensed into 7 terrifying faces, roaring in the air. The faces twisted together. Demonic clouds formed. A massive mushroom cloud exploded in midair. The sky was dyed dark. Bone Demon looked up. In the dense demon cloud stood a man in black robes, eyes closed, long black hair flowing without wind. Demonic energy surged around him, engulfing 3,000 miles. The skies above the entire God Valley world were covered. The remnants of the God race watched in terror, hiding in their homes. The air. I've missed it. The black-robed man breathed deeply, intoxicated. Lord Sevenface. Bone Demon shouted from below. The man turned. The 7 twisted faces around him all merged back into his body. He ignored Bone Demon and locked eyes with Suzimo. Master. The man descended slowly, looking at Suzimo with complex emotions. It's been a long time. I thought I'd never see you again. The man walked up and suddenly hugged Suzimo, crying. Suzimo was caught off guard. This is the legendary Infernal Archon. A merciless killer feared by countless people. Are you kidding? Master, Lord Sevenface has 7 aspects. This is only one of them. Bone Demon explained from the side. You'll get used to it. Bone, why didn't you come save me? I was trapped in that wretched bell for countless years. Thought I'd never see daylight again. The 7-face Infernal Archon turned with a cold glare. Lord Sevenface, be fair. Bone Demon protested. You told me to guard the 7-face Lotus. After the God race vanished, I had no idea where you were. The demon-locking bell was already lost. Oh, so you've got some guts now? Talking about fairness? Who dug you out of a pile of bones back then? 7-face kicked at Bone Demon. Bone Demon dodged in a panic. Watching them bicker, Suzimo couldn't help but think. This guy has none of the demeanor of an Infernal Archon. If it weren't for that impressive entrance, even Suzimo would doubt it. This is one of the 18 Infernal Archons of the Infernal Lord? Ridiculous. I think having this demon-locking bell is actually a good thing, Suzimo said. If you ever hug me again, I'll toss you back in for a few days of wall-facing meditation. Upon hearing that, the 7-face Infernal Archon quickly waved his hands. Master, you must be joking. Do you still remember the ancestral tree? Suzimo asked. The Sky Shroud Demon Tree is still within the God-Demon battlefield, 7-face replied. The ancestral tree drifted with us to the eternal lands. But without you, no one could use it. So many years have passed. No idea how things are at the Holy Land, he added. Let's go see. We'll reclaim the ancestral tree. It's time to return, Susimo said. And maybe an old friend you'll be interested in. Master, are you going to the outer heavens? Seven-Face asked. No, another world, primordial heartlands, Susimo replied. You'll understand when you see him. Before leaving, Susimo looked at Jiuyu and asked, What do you plan to do? Can I stay? Jiuyu asked. Here, Susimo asked. Jiuyu nodded, her expression complicated. Sure, I'm leaving, Susimo said. As he walked away, Jiuyu stood up and shouted, When will I see you again? You won't. Good luck. Susimo waved without turning back, his figure fading into the distance. I'll remember you, for life, Jiuyu whispered, staring off at the far horizon. At that moment in the God-Demon City, the sunset fell as usual, bathing the city in golden light. People went about their ordinary lives. But suddenly, the spirit force of the world shifted. The glowing sunset was suddenly shrouded by a shadow.